Hello, hello, hello. Weird angles, weird situation. Oh, it's Monday. Oh, wait, what happened on Sunday? Valentine's Day. So we had to postpone it, and somehow we end up here on Monday. Hello, how are you
Yeah.
guys?
We'll just pretend it's Sunday.
Yeah, is
It
it Sunday?
feels like Sunday for me anyway.
Well, happy Valentine's Day then if it's Sunday.
Thank you very much.
So how you guys been? You guys
Yeah,
okay?
good.
Right.
Yeah, totally. It's been, it's been totally fine. It's nice to have a long weekend. My daughter was lucky enough 2 weekends in a row. They had a long weekend because she had an in-service day last week as well. So she's loving it. Yeah, totally good. Everything is great.
Funny, we both have long weekends. It's President's Day here in the United States.
It's Louis Riel Day here, but then it went across Canada, so they call it Family Day now, is what it's called across Canada. We still call it Louis Riel Day here in Manitoba, but it's Family Day.
In Lithuania, where I'm from, tomorrow will be Independence Day. So yay! The birthday of my country tomorrow. So
Yeah.
And on Wednesday is my son's birthday. So whoa, I'm partying it up.
Nice.
So yeah,
How old
we're
will
gonna
he be? 3?
3. Big
Wow.
3 already. I was looking at pictures when he was, well, maybe 7 months, and then comparing to now, it's like, oh my god, what happened?
Yeah.
Where's the time gone? No,
Yeah.
come back, little baby squishies, please come back. I said to my husband, I want him back like this squishy. He's like, no, I prefer him like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, 3 is when he's really going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
You have to guard every object in your house, probably.
Oh, he already screwed up quite a few things for me, especially. It's like, looks like I'm spending most of the time, so he knows which is the things the dearest of mine. So he tends to like, okay, let's just make not work that. So I have this beloved iPad I keep on using every time to read my books, and I had Apple Pencil. My Apple Pencil doesn't work anymore. So that's quite the thingy, because he's absolutely obsessed with pencils and pens, and he wanted to make sure that he's drawing everywhere. So he's kind of gets the arty side of me, I guess. Maybe my side, or even my husband. Anyway,
My husband too.
Kind of, we love art kind of type of things, family. So he's obsessed with pencils. So now half of the walls are covered with pencil marks, which I'm trying to clean up, and that doesn't work really well. But you know what I mean. So, but I'm still reading comic books, that's what we're here for, to talk. And I'll give you to you guys. Maybe Damien, you can kick off with us. So tell us what you've been reading.
Okay, I want to say hi to Varangian Vigilante, a cool guy who lives in Austria, who loves Conan, amongst other things. But he's a huge Conan fan.
So
he says he just subscribed and found his channel. So that's awesome.
Is he a YouTuber
thank you very
as well,
much.
too,
Yeah, he has a great YouTube channel. Look him up. I doubt there's any other Varangian Vigilante out there.
True enough.
He does a lot of live broadcasts and hauls and things like that.
Oh, cool.
And he's often does shows with Stay Puft, Sean. I don't know if you guys know him.
Oh, yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
So here's my momentous monolith for the week.
Wow.
This is a Prince Valiant Studio Edition. So it's like those artist editions, but by Fantagraphics. And this is something I've been putting off buying for a long time. I knew it existed, but it's even more expensive than the artist editions. I think it's listed at $180. And was it the last time we talked? We talked about hardbacks that go out of print and stuff.
Yes.
And that triggered me, and I said, "Wait a minute! I've been meaning to get this all along, and I've been putting it off because it's so expensive. But what if it goes out of print?" And I went to the Fantagraphics site, and they said it's out of print. But then I went on Amazon, and they were selling it at a discount. So I thought, well, I better just grab it now, just in case this is my last chance to get it at an even close to reasonable price. So I think I paid $120 for it. It is now my biggest book. Here, I pulled out. I mean, Terrence knows what the Spirit editions are like. It is a little bigger all the way around than the Spirit.
Whoa!
And it's totally weightlifting just to pick the. I think I'm getting into the realm of books that are too big. I kind of hurt myself looking through it.
Too? Is that a window cut into the cover?
Yeah, it's like a window cut in.
Cool.
And
whoa!
It has a variety of types of pages. A few of them are even colored. So I don't know if Hal Foster colored them in his studio, perhaps. I won't be able to find anything in particular here. It's so hard to hold up this way. But it's not consecutive. It's got pieces of artwork starting from 1938 or 37 when he first started, going all the way up to the 60s. So it's more like a sampling of his artwork over the years. And there's no explanation. Like sometimes when there's a small thing on the page, that's the one thing I wish, that there was sometimes an explanation of what they're showing us. But but it is incredible. And I'm really happy I pulled the trigger. I mean, I feel a bit guilty about how much money I spent, but speaking of Conan with Varangian Vigilante here, there are scenes in various Prince Valiant comics that clearly inspired John Buscema's Conan a lot. And I would guess he also inspired at some level Barry Smith and other Conan artists too. But the list of artists that he inspired is enormous. He's kind of I can't even deal with this anymore.
He's infamous. His name I always hear around.
I have been reading a lot of Prince Valiant this past 6 months. I got two of these also big but nowhere near as big collections, box sets. So this is actually the second box set. So this is volume 6 here. But I constantly am looking at it and say, oh, wait, that reminds me of P. Craig Russell. That reminds me of John Buscema. There's Wally Wood in there. And where did it go? Excuse me a second.
What are the stories like, Damien? Are they kind of like Conan-ish? I mean, I know Prince Valiant. It's like I said,
there's a little bit of it's King Arthur-ish kind of stuff.
Okay, understood.
And it's old-fashioned adventure comics. In fact, this was the dawn of adventure comics, because at first comics in American newspapers were all humorous. And it should be noted he is Canadian, not American. So perhaps the greatest adventure comic strip artist of all time was Canadian. You can take credit for that if you're feeling patriotic.
Yes.
Because I'm saying American newspapers. But he's the one first starting, actually. So I've been digging into him. First starting in the 20s or the early 30s, I'm now not sure, with Tarzan, he kind of established a realistic adventure stuff for the comics. And he was quite a successful and respected illustrator back in the golden age of illustration, but got sucked into doing comics. And I think he did Tarzan for a while, but then he wanted more control. And when he was and so he left comics, and then he was seduced back in when some newspaper syndicate gave him everything he wanted in terms of control of what he did. And so around the same time, after the Tarzan, and around the same time Prince Valiant was coming out, was when you get things like Terry and the Pirates and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but he's the most illustrative and the least. There is a staticness to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It does. Most of all, it reminds me of P. Craig Russell, I have to say. And it reads well if you read 1 or 2 pages at a time, because each one is, a densely packed Sunday comic strip page.
The
So,
colored version you're looking at and flipping through, it does remind you of a static like paintings. You know what I mean? You could put the
yeah.
paintings like it's really well.
Well, and they say he spent about 50 to 60 hours a week on each page. And he did
Wow.
immense amounts of research. I assume he may have used models and poses to make. I mean, everything is very perfect. It's so perfect in terms of the human anatomy and all the details, the armor, the castles.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I actually, this was the one I have sitting around the office because I haven't read it yet. But there's all these cool things that I've read. So that wasn't really reading this week. That was my hardback collecting, but that was sort of the big event.
It's pretty sweet.
That's a beautiful things to look at. Actually, that book in generally, that perspective to look at is like ginormous. I mean, you show the pictures on Twitter and then you show this like, oh my God, what is this? The ginormous. Remember, you said the box was there, but when you see it like
the box
that,
was even bigger. I thought it was going to be like up to my chest or something.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking like the way you want to display those books. Have you ever wondered or seen the videos of people when they post the comic books on the wall? So they have this like slim shelf or like a bookshelf, but it's for comic books. So I think that kind of shelf would actually be perfect for artist editions,
right?
Because you just they can stand there, sit there, and you want to flip through it. Would be even possible to do that because when you put it somewhere like on the like high bookshelf, it's impossible to reach. I tried many times. I'm now still looking. I have one ginormous book. That Marvel Galactus Jack Kirby's edition?
Giant size Galactus thing.
Yeah,
that's almost as big as these. Yeah,
because because the books are like for his first appearances are gone. So I always want to know inside. Of course, I can look digitally, but having that in ginormous page, the Galactus looks even further bigger than he usually is. And Jack Kirby's art, as bigger it is, the better it looks because the details he's putting in the page, especially if that like space and stuff like that, is just beautiful. And I'm still wondering how I'm going to display that book because no matter, first, I have a child, so I have to think that for one.
Right.
But also
you need them out of reach.
Yeah. And also I want to basically be able to pick it up and actually observe it, like enjoy myself, but I can't because I can't like still find the way to display it. So those books are beautiful, but you have to be having like those, like me and comickkrakk was fantasizing one day about those libraries. That's what you need for those books. That fantasy library.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I have a tiny room that I've made into my reading nook, and I've done a few videos in there, and you can see behind me all the artist editions and those giant size Marvel books. Because someone, previous owner of the house, had put in some built-in shelves with those metal strips with the little notches, so you can just adjust the shelves to any notch. And so I just adjusted the shelf way up and put all on the bottom. The shelf starts about this height, and I put all the huge ones there.
Oh, nice.
And of course, my daughter's not of an age where she'll pull them down and crush herself with the books. But
and I think that's one of the ways to deal with it. Like, some custom-made built-in shelves. I think it's something we've thought about for upstairs on the main floor. Just the entire wall, just built-in shelves with different sized nooks and stuff, right? So some more free.
The adjustable kind of things that you can get. It's interesting here. VV, I'm going to call him Varangian Vigilante. He says that Prince Valiant was called Prince Eisenherz over in Austria. I don't know what the implication of that name is. I did realize Hal Foster, Prince Valiant is always called Prince Val. So I think Hal, I think it's sort of himself a little bit.
Yeah. He's also talking about the Unseen Jack Cats Kickstarter by Liam Sharp.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I saw it, I don't know, a week or two ago, because I follow Liam Sharp on Twitter as well. And he's working with Jack, and I guess there's a bunch of art that he's done that comic artists are more like modern artists are inking. Liam Sharp is doing that. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. Some kind of famous comics people now are inking some of his old work. And he's still kicking. You know, they have a little.
He is. He's still around.
Video. Yeah, he's still around.
Wow.
I mean, well, in the video that I saw anyway, maybe that was recorded earlier, but I'm guessing that this is a very recent thing. But it looks great. I mean, it's good to see that someone's still supporting and trying to get his name out there. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most people won't remember years and years ago when you and I did some videos about the Last Kingdom, or what First Kingdom.
First Kingdom, yeah. Dense. It's dense, man. That's a dense read too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like that style of art, you know, like the it's one of those things that it wouldn't appeal to me earlier, but it's definitely, like you're saying, it's more that posed as opposed to these dynamic shots and things. I'm finding that I'm enjoying that a lot more than I ever would have. Even that Tarzan that you showed, that color one, looked fantastic. And it's a comic I've never really dug into. I've heard obviously tons about them, but I've never really looked into them myself. But those editions, and I think in that oversized edition, even that Tarzan one, it looked like it was thinner, but still that oversized format, I think, is the way to go.
Yeah. Talking about the Jack Katz, I think there's a definite, not stylistically, but a definite Prince Valiant connection there. Because when we were reading it, those first issues, each page felt so dense. It was like a whole Sunday page, you know, where, you know, it felt like you went through so much just to get from the top of the page to the bottom of the page.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was there was some of those issues. I mean, I don't have all of the issues. I think maybe, did you buy all of the hardcover collections of them? Or did you just
didn't. I kind of stalled after about number 3. And I've been meaning I should go, speaking of hardbacks that will go out of print, I should go get those before they're gone. Yeah,
and I mean, even the issues that I have, I'm still missing some issues as well, but I only went so far with it because it's just it becomes like, it's interesting, and it's interesting to see, like, from a historical comic kind of side and everything, but it's quite a slog at times. Hello, G. Hello.
It's not a sit down and just read a graphic novel on a Sunday kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we got great people here. John, Clark Kent jeans, and Find the Comics.
Yeah.
So many of them.
So I guess Eisenherz means Ironheart, so he's Prince Ironheart in German. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
There. That's to mention. So we can see. Anyway, so Terrence, show us your gem of the week.
Just kind of, well, I don't know if it's a gem of the week, but it was good reading this week. Just kind of on, Damien was talking about the amount of work that went into the art and the research and everything. I finally finished the first volume of Tim Truman's Wilderness, this true story of Simon Gerty. And I think maybe we've spoken about it here. I don't quite remember, but I take off this dust jacket first. These wonderful dust jackets that are always a pain. Beautiful kind of silver embossing there. But he does pages of, first of all, a page of like acknowledgements. And then he really goes into detail about all of the research that he did, lists the bibliographies, talks about people that he spoke to, and just talks about how important it was for him to get the historical elements correct when it came to, you know, weapons, when it came to what the characters looked like, how they dressed, all of that. As a read, it was good. There were a couple of points where it was a little dry because, I mean, it's not like you're creating a story and you're creating all these dynamic moments. You're really just going through Simon Gerty's history. You know, it talks about when he was a child, and then next thing you know, you're jumping to 9 years. He spent 9 years with these particular people, and he spent, you know, so you're sort of jumping to these big moments in his life to get there. So because it's that, there's a lot of just partially kind of info dump, and I don't mean that as negatively as it may sound, but that is part of what's going on here. You know, there is an info dump element to it of, let's make sure we get this history out and we'll talk about these moments. That said, though, there's still some really good moments. And again, it's just one of those things, like, I can't help see a figure like this and think like Grim Jack and think Scout, and just really, Truman just has such a style, you know, that's another one of those guys that's just really easily identifiable. and beautiful to look at. I mean, his pages are gorgeous. He does some really gorgeous work, especially at this point in his career. There's a lot of the rougher edges are sort of gone now. I mean, like a page like this is gorgeous, right? So
yeah.
Really, really nice. So there's 2 volumes. I haven't started on the 2nd volume, hoping to start it on this week. But it was a good read. Yeah, I mean, Tim Truman just continues to be a guy that I go back to and just very comfortable. And I really, really enjoy everything that he has to offer. And every time I do dip into some Truman again, I remember that Scout has some new stuff out. And I keep meaning to go to his website and support the new series, but then it slips my mind.
Is he also on Kickstarter? I'm trying to remember the interview with him.
He may have, yeah, he might have had a Kickstarter for that as well too, because I do know that there was a couple of levels where you could get original art. You could get like a sort of I think it was a black and white version of the newest Scout. I think maybe there was like a, like the Jim Rugg is doing, with his what does he call it? His process, kind of comics, things like that. Yeah. So you could do that sort of thing. And I think you can get like signed and numbered editions, that sort of thing. So, but I'm sure there's still stuff available on his website. Yeah. So that's fun. And that's from his Four Winds publishing as well. And then I think distributed through Eclipse. So yeah, really, really nice.
Was that originally black and white?
Yeah. Originally black and white. Yeah. I don't think. Well,
really
I'm about to say this, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure this is the only format that it came out in, this hardcover.
Oh,
I think there was another one that was hardcover, but it had like a book plate and signed and numbered by him as well. But I think this is the only format it came in. So yeah, that was fun. That was a good one. Good old Truman.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Well, I had a Marvel week, to be honest. Read lots of Marvel, to be honest. For me, it's the amount of. The reason being, first I'll start where I finished. So I finally finished The Secret Invasion. I only have the dense storyline. I guess I don't have all the other, like continuations of the whole story, I guess, I presume. But I enjoyed this one. And I was like thinking, I was listening to what Damien was talking, of course. And then as me of digital, I went into Marvel Unlimited world. And that's horrible, by the way, because there's so much to read.
Yeah.
I was like,
you don't really need anything else for the rest of your life.
It's too much information here. Come on, people. So basically, so I read the Secret Scrolls. I started. My screen is lovely from my son's touching things. Anyway, don't mind the smears and stuff you see. Anyway, so Wonder Vision is quite an obsessive thing for everybody now. I always wanted to find out more about characters, so I went online. Now getting this limited, I was like, okay, I have a slew of information I need to research. And I'm going to do this amazing thing. And I'm going to be basically finding out about Vision. And I started reading, basically, I found out the story is from Avengers 135 to, 133 to 135. There's a story of Vision, origin of Vision. And that was fascinating. I was like, what? I didn't know this. So, this is the last Avengers, let's just internet. Oh God, technology, guys. I'm trying to be fancy, but I'm not really fancy when it comes to the things. It doesn't work for me. Anyway, so the Vision, did you guys know that Vision is actually originally was a Human Torch? Da, da, da.
I had no idea.
Was he the body of the Human Torch or the mind of the Human Torch?
The body of a Human Torch.
Okay, but someone else's mind, right?
I'm not sure about well.
I'm confused. I remember there was some connection between him and Wonder Man.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what I'm reading so far is Vision is a Human Torch body android created by a guy called scientist Horton. As you know, Marvel Universe was before Marvel. They were
Timely.
Exactly. So in Timely's, there's the story of Human Torch, and the Human Torch was first actually an android created by a scientist, and apparently, because they didn't approve of androids, they had the story of they buried him alive under the earth to hide him from everything because they were afraid of his powers, because he was all flame on all the time. Android, of course, like alien, everybody's going, like 1350 or 39, something like that. So everybody was freaking out. How dare you? How you do this? We can't control this android. We have to bury it. He buries him in a military compound where they're testing bombs. So they put the bomb down. He's alive again. It's like, oh, what's going on here? So basically what happens, that Ultron gets involved, which is, I didn't know that either. I mean, I knew kind of that Ultron was involved with Visions because the Vision is always calling him a father. But Ultron basically took the android from that Horton guy, and basically he wanted to create a child. Like, that's what he wanted to do, is Ultron. And then he basically found the Horton because he was like disgraced for creating an android from that era. He couldn't do scientific work anymore. Ultron finds him, so help me to erase his mind completely and place whatever I feel like doing it. And Horton decides, no. I mean, I'm going to do the last good thing. And I left him the human part of me, basically. Wanted to make him more human, kind of thing. So Ultron kills him. And that's how Vision basically finds out. And Vision, the way he finds out the story about himself is by time travel. Marvel, time travel. They do that all the time, even in the comic books. But also, they had the same story going on with the Mantis. But then, I don't know, I'm confused a bit with Mantis. As far as I learned before, was Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy is different Mantis from Avengers. Maybe Damon can help me with that.
Yeah, I had no idea there was another Mantis, because the only one I know is from, I know her from the movie. Yeah, the Guardians movie there. That's the only one I know.
I think they brought her back as a character for the movie, but gave her a totally different background, because I think she was, well, you know what? I haven't seen that Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but in the comics, she was a prostitute from Vietnam who gained some powers. I forget how though. But eventually she did go on to become kind of a cosmic being and just sort of leave the Avengers.
Well, let me tell you why I was like fascinated by the story after.
I haven't read this since I was a kid. So
so guess who gets involved in the story? The Kree. So Mantis of Avengers from this time, the era of 70s, I guess. So she was a human child who's taken away because they wanted to create a perfect human. So they put her in this like a monastery or something, not monastery, but like a temple where they're going to teach her the good things about stuff. Then they decided that she learned everything. So they placed her in Saigon, where in Saigon, she met one of the Black Knight, actually, who's joined Avengers in that era. Now, when she joined Avengers in that era, she started to feel this empathetic abilities, and apparently her backstory was, and that's so confusing, time travel. Anyway, so she time travels as well to find out that Kree had the same world with Kontati race, which is like plant-based animals, like creatures, like trees, and they are which can basically communicate with you empathetically, kind of thing, with emotions and stuff like that. So that just blew my mind. I was like reading Kree. Now I'm reading WandaVision. Suddenly Kree appears. Like, what? So Kree was a creatures who were in this world sharing with Kontanti, but they weren't evolved yet. But guess what? Skrulls comes into the world and says, oh, look, we have this technology. Here, we'll give you a task. You do live on the moon for a year, and then we'll see who's the best from two of you. And then it's so involved, but I just like, oh my God, there's so much information. Like Kree is, oh, hello. Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry, go ahead. She's just saying goodbye. Carry on.
Oh, okay. So Kree gets jumped into the moon, and they get it a task to do. They build this like fortress apparently, and that fortress, when the time they build it, it's actually the base for where the Watch is living. Did you know that, Damien? I was like, what?
No.
So it was like so much information. Marvel, stop it. This Marvel Unlimited. It's like, no, I just went for one storyline. I want one division story, like love story. I want to see how we get married, because apparently in the story they will tell me how they did it. But then Doctor Strange got involved. Kree got involved. Then this apophatic creatures, the Mantis got involved, and I was like, oh, but it's actually really good.
Were these ones written by Steve Englehart?
Yes.
So I think what you're getting is, first you had Stan Lee's work, and then Roy Thomas started like fitting things around the edges about the Human Torch and stuff, because he liked to bring in 1940s comics. And then you have Steve Englehart, who loves to retrofit things also. So you're at your like already third level of retrofitting the Marvel universe in what you're reading. And it gets really complicated.
But there's the funny thing is, like, when you get into Marvel world by just reading this story, and you're like, okay, Kree, and then suddenly you watch the WandaVision's movie, and you say, oh, I want to read more WandaVision. Then you go into this Marvel Universe app, and there's like a whole world of information. So I was like, okay, so that story, which I'm trying to basically finish reading, is supposed to be finished in Avengers Giant Size 4. This is famous now, a kind of expensive issue, because you see Wanda and Vision is getting married in that issue as well. So, which is, I mean, I wanted to see how they did. And Android and Wanda was really pissed off with people because, like, I'm a mutant. They don't realize I'm actually a mutant. So I feel like, like, just because I I love my Android, and they get angry with me. Why? Like, I can just, like, because she feels that anger and the power. You're like, oh my God, because knowing her power in a way, it's like, okay, so she can do whatever she feels like to those humans, because when she gets pissed off. But in the story as well, she decides to go into witchcraft as well, because it wasn't enough that she was a mutant and she had that hex power, which I didn't know existed before the TV show. I wasn't aware, because you see, not enough information has read in my brain to understand what Wanda's power was. So basically, I start reading Doctor Strange, because I got distracted because I was like, oh my God, Doctor Strange, I can read everything. So I was like, I went in Doctor Strange. So this is my week of reading. So I'm going to be quite short and talking, like, as long as I'm going to talk now, but this is what I've read. So you guys can talk afterwards, because my brain.
How many books?
What Doctor Strange did you read? How much of that?
Yeah.
Well, I read the whole issue of Doctor Strange, like the one issue. I read Doctor Strange number 7, which is beautiful art, because it's Jim Collan. You can't. Okay, let me just make it a bit more professional.
Is that also Steve Englehart then?
I'm actually don't remember.
That is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's Clea, and she's playing around with the Dormammu, and that's beautiful story, and the paneling are just spectacular, and the colors are superb. I don't know, and I because when you read the Marvel comic books, they give you, like, last issue you can read about this story. It's like, oh my God, I can actually do this. Into this frenzy of reading,
right.
And I'm sounding like crazy, and I'm Stephen Englehart, by the way. That's the front cover.
So he had a great run on the Avengers. He had a great run on Doctor Strange. This is prime Steve Englehart period of reading. But he does love to go back and recomplicate and add new things.
Yeah. The thing is, I actually, to be honest, while I was reading it, I really love that there is so much information because now when I have that information available for me, anything they tell me is like, oh, information I can read kind of thing. But I got so excited because I was like thinking, surely, like, too much information will explode my brain, that's what's happening when I'm even trying to explain to you what I've just read. But ability just to look for the art like this. I have this issue, I think, of Doctor Strange, but Gene Colan's art, even in digital, looks amazing, especially the colors
Mhm.
bursting into your screen. And another thing I started enjoying, which I didn't think I will, I started doing the big panels. So you
Yeah.
can scroll, and they each like level, and you can read really well. You don't have to squint.
Amazing.
You don't have to squint. So why you can see this
Yeah.
art in great detail, and like you, I mean, I don't know, maybe how
Oh,
I
that's great.
thought.
Yeah. An
I
artist like Gene Colan, when the ink starts getting smudgy on the old paper,
Yeah.
you just don't get the full effect. So it's really nice to have
Look
him
at this.
digitally.
This is just beautiful, and you just go scroll, and you just
That's
amaze
cool
yourself.
to see. I had an early comic reading app. I think my mom gave me her, was it a Kobo reader? I don't even remember what the heck it was. She had upgraded her reader and gave me her old e-reader, and I found some app, and that's how they had it laid out. So you would go kind of panel to panel, and then the last thing was they would show you the entire page. It was either the first thing or the last thing. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I always found that such a fantastic way to read through it digitally, so you get that, like you're saying, you can blow up that one panel to that first screen.
Usually
Very
you can control your settings. Like I usually set it to show me the whole page, then panel to panel, then the whole page again.
Okay,
Whoa.
cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's even more exciting. But anyway, another thing what I've noticed is when you do this kind of paneling, you read your Silver Age comic books much quicker, because you're concentrating on one panel, you're enjoying the art, you're enthralled in the storyline plus the art, and I was like, how do I read so quickly? Silver Age comic books doesn't go so easy for me. I usually like sit down, concentrate kind of in a way with enjoyment. It's not a job for me, but it takes time, because like
totally does.
but and if you are like junkie of information, Marvel Unlimited, this is perfect. I mean, you want to be that person like who has everything knowing about Marvel, just do that. I don't think I ever want to buy a new comic book of Marvel, to be honest. Because there's no point.
You don't need to. You don't need it.
No. So wow, people are here and there, and
we've got Jack Yo, we've got Mike Sarge America. And
I agree with Jack Yo. He's bloody addictive already.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like something that I absolutely want to dive into, just hearing you talk about it, just that access. Because one of the things that I've been doing is when I'm buying like my Doctor Strange and Defenders, those panels where they do say for more of this, go back to this issue. I've actually been hunting down those issues to have us kind of fit them in as part of the run, if they're cheap enough. I mean, if they're too expensive, I don't bother. But if I find them cheap enough, I get them just to get that extra little bit of detail. So that's fantastic.
As long as you have a good tablet. I mean, it sucks on a phone. I mean,
no, for sure.
Crap on a phone.
Oh yeah, don't do phone. Phone is no. You
I would
have
do
to
laptop if anything. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's it also another good thing. If you're new to this Marvel Unlimited, the whole week you get for free. So have the holiday of Marvel Unlimited for you. Like, oh my god, I can read the whole, and then you'll be clever after that.
Wait till you get a week off and just
but the thing is, it's just, especially old stuff like Fantastic Four. I cannot wait, because I love Jack Kirby's art in Fantastic Four because of Mr. Damien and Agent 42 Wednesday series, or whatever you want to call them. They were talking great details in Fantastic Four in that era, and I was like, oh my god, yes, I want to read it, but I never did, because or go this way. I don't know. It's like, like when you go in time and you have an ability of using something with technology, and you're like, oh no, I'm all about paper, which is true. I'm all about paper. I enjoy the experience of flipping pages. It's more enjoyable for me. But
of course,
you can always have something next to you. Do you know what I mean? So like, if that can enhance your reading ability, like a couple of Doctor Strange, I was really pissed off once. So I have you read the story and they say, oh, jump into Fantastic Four number 68, and there's the finished story. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
And now I can, because I have this digital option. If I completely enjoy my story, I can also hunt it, because that's what I would do, because I like having the whole thing, because I'm a collector at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I mean, like you're saying, especially if you want to just read the stories, I mean, you can't possibly get everything out there, right? So this is just a good opportunity to dig back way into the history and check out a bunch of other comics. It sounds pretty amazing.
And the thing is, if you don't care about Silver Age or that history, just go and read your new comic books. Look, you have your Hickman's whatever Exords, whatever that is.
Exords, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
new
they're
storyline.
now just 3 months behind the print. So
Wow. So
unless you're someone who just wants to read it when the week it comes out, there's not much point.
Yeah.
But there is a different, like I like digital and I like print, but I think I like print a little better. It's definitely works in your brain in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, digitally, my information keeping, I was like, actually, because we weren't chatting yesterday, and I was like, will I remember? Because I tend to not to forget what I read digitally, especially if it's something, like it's a good story, but it didn't blow me away, but like I enjoyed it. But now tell me a week later, explain what I read, and I was like, will I remember? But when I read this, it's suddenly imprinted in my brain. It's like, okay, I exactly know what it is. This is what's surprising. And by the way, what happened to the Wasp? I was like, woof. Not gonna spoil it. I guess people wants to read it. It's kind of popular comic book these days. I guess because the movies, maybe Skrull's gonna appear again. They're gonna do something about it. So, anyway.
Well, I think you can spoil it here, just with a warning that you're going to spoil it if you want to.
Warning!
Yeah, I think
warning!
spoil it. Yeah,
I've never read it, and I've had it spoiled for me many times.
yeah.
No, it's well, this issue it's already come like aftermath. Not I have to find the issue before that. If I do, you unlock. Yeah, I think I did. So very beautiful comic art, by the way, in colors, beautiful. But this, like typical event book for Marvel.
Make yourself big again, Rasa.
Okay. So
that's a dense looking page. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you can see all this. Imagine working on this. I was like, oh my god, the guy was probably hating this page after a couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah, but he can sell the original art for way more than the other pages.
Oh yes, there you go. There's information for you guys. You have to keep in mind.
Those double page spreads are money for these guys.
Yeah, and especially with all those characters in it. Yeah.
So you have all this beautiful art going on, and lots of action, of course. And so Wasp, so everything bad happens to Avengers, but then, of course, there's going to be a win at the end of it, which has happened. But how they won and how Skrulls have kept the chips in their own basket kind of thing. This is one of the favorite panels of mine where Mr. Richards gets attacked by his own woman, the wife. What is the name? Invisible Girl?
Invisible Woman, Sue Storm.
Sue Storm, there you go. And she's multiplied in 500, which is perfect. But that's all Skrulls. And then you have an ad, which is really freaked me out when I was reading it. Oh my god. So and they put was that an ad? And then I see a Skrull, and then you have a Watcher appearing, which is great. It's always, and they say oh my god, a Watcher appeared. This is it. Something's really, really bad gonna happen. And the one thing really bad happened was in this storyline, Luke Cage and what's his oh my god, the names of the characters. What's her name? The wife of Luke Cage in the detective.
Jessica Jones?
Yeah, Jessica Jones. Yeah.
They had the baby. And the baby was given to Jarvis. And then in the storyline, Jarvis was a Skrull. So, and they left the baby with the Skrull. They didn't know that he was a Skrull. And I was like, oh my god, as a mother, oh my god, what's going to happen to the baby now? They don't tell you in here, by the way. Spoiler alert, we're not going to say what's happening to the baby in the story. But what happens to Wasp? She basically, Skrull, Hank Pym, manipulates with her belt or that power where they can go small and then can go big, and she becomes big. too big, and she's basically becomes like an atomic bomb. And she almost like she explodes and dies in this issue. That's your spoiler.
Oh wow.
Which is
Okay,
like,
yeah.
so he basically because this whole story was that they infiltrate Avengers. They nobody knows who is who. So Hank Pym wasn't sure who's Hank Pym was, or Skrull, or actually Hank Pym, and then he was a Skrull, and he basically started manipulating her, his wife, supposedly his wife, to basically as if something really bad happens with the Skrulls and they can't achieve the goal of invading Earth, they have this task of her to make her so big that she basically explodes and kills many people and kills all Avengers, and they still kind of winning in a way. So really good storyline in a way. It's like really event and lots of explosion, lots of fightings happening, but surprising parts where Skrulls were keeping that things up their sleeve all the time. So Avengers were coming back and it's like, okay, we're gonna win. It's like, no, Skrulls has an answer for that, and all that stuff. So really good event book. And there's apparently, but who takes over after, because they basically canceled the Shield after the storyline. Nick Fury gets like, you're not in charge. Iron Man, you're not in charge, and Harry Osborn is getting to be in charge from the Thunderbolts. Apparently, he was in charge of Thunderbolts in this time of the writing. So, and you have this last page to give it to you on this issue where Mr. In Charge guy decides to meet people, and he meets all the baddies and says, oh, now I'm in charge and I'm going to do whatever hell I want. And that's how basically the story ends. There you go.
Cool. John was asking who was doing the covers on those.
I don't actually know. I've been looking. Doesn't say to you even on the pages. It usually mentions, like you have so much information here. They usually mention here, but they don't. And I can't find even signature on it. There's no signatures on this. You usually find it as well, but no. I was wondering the same thing, to be honest, because I was thinking there's like those ones of like upcoming artists in that time was like, now they're really, really popular. So
yeah.
Oh, says Jack, you're saying. I remember Secret Only.
Oh, there you go.
First. Oh, Del Auto covers. There you go. So your answer is they.
I guess crediting the cover artists on the inside is pretty new.
Is it?
I mean, I don't remember when I first started noticing them doing that, but maybe they weren't doing it back in the Secret Invasion time. Because now you see a list not only of who did the cover, but also a list of variant cover artists.
Yeah, exactly. You have everything, like whoever.
Yeah, they lay out everything.
Yeah, and show you which cover. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a lovely sleep.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. So this is like, so as I say, it just you go attach yourself to one thing, and you're like, oh my god, that's so much information, and that's my basically reading time. And I've been reading a lot. It's like, as I say, it's been so enjoyable with the paneling. And I think Silver Age is perfect for that kind of thing, because it's like dense. You get like disheartened by seeing the page with so many bubbles. But if you just scroll with that one thing, you just keep on doing it. It's like, oh, this is an unending comic book kind of thing. But you're like, oh, it's good information. Give me more kind of thing. So really did enjoy myself.
With the right artists like Gene Colan or Jack Kirby, it is great to just see a whole panel blown up like that.
Exactly. And even to be honest, in the Avengers, the artists changed quite often, which I was kind of surprised in that time anyway. But even the art was, because they were having I guess the artist was drawing Marvel way, so all of them kind of look similar to that point. So you weren't like seeing something different. Of course, like sometimes the facials or the panel structure, who is better at like layouts of like if like movements and stuff. Somebody is a bit more static, you can notice in that sense. But in generally, as I say, I really like those Avengers in that era. I was like, oh, I can read this continuous, because the team is quite interesting, intriguing. And another thing which is fascinating is the Hawkeye in this era. He's a douche. Everybody's like, you apparently he disappeared, and every single time he just mentions the word, and we had like in the stories we had Thor, Iron Man, so Hawkeye, and Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Mantis. That's the people were in the storyline, and Thor and Iron Man talking, and and Hawkeye is like keep on mentioning. He's like, kind of like stop talking. What are you talking about? He's always like saying something really kind of rude. So that was funny. So give you kind of like
some of the Defenders that I'm reading, because I'm reading that run, and he's left the Avengers and comes to them, and they address that there too. Like I think when in the issues that I was reading a few months back, where they had kind of a Defenders versus Avengers battles, they were talking about that too. You know, he left them and just kind of what a jackass he was, and even the Defenders who are, you know, kind of barely together at the best of times were kind of commenting on his behavior too. So yeah.
Another thing which is talking now digitally, apparently DC is doing kind of similar things, but it's only available in America. For me, for example, it's not available. I'm not able to subscribe to that service, but because they are doing it even like TV shows, I think, or something. I'm not really sure what's that, because I can't access it. But they're doing kind of similar things as well because of the... I guess they want some people coming in via digital as well, so get that platform going. I would love to do it because I love DC's history. I'm a big fan of Justice League of America, of that era. Kind of like the older the better for me. But even though I was like would be going through that as well, but look.
I was doing both. I was doing I'm surprised DC hasn't got themselves international. I mean, why not?
Not yet. Not yet. Not with the new one. Not with the new one.
I felt overwhelmed. I couldn't. It's too much to have all of DC and all of Marvel. So I decided to cut the DC. That their app doesn't work quite as well. Okay. And I just had plenty to read, so I just decided I might go. Maybe someday I'll cut the Marvel and switch to the DC.
Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, I was thinking if I feel like reading, like, because you can, they always like, oh, buy this year subscription, is much cheaper for you, but you commit to a year. It's like, why committing so much? You know, you feel like reading a lot, you have time to read a lot, subscribe for a month, read as much as you want, and then go away and come back again, whatever you feel like going. I mean, I know it's going to be a bit more expensive, but thinking I need to buy 2 Marvel comic books these days, and I can almost subscribe to this whole for 1 month. So
really?
Wow, yeah.
So why would I even bother, to be honest?
If you read 3 comics on it, you've saved money.
Yeah, interesting.
But in just for me though, it's everybody's very different. How you think about what you want to do, how you buying your Marvel comic books, you do whatever you way of thinking. But for me, it's like, it doesn't make sense. I don't buy Marvel comic books these days anyway, the new ones. So this is kind of already like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to support Marvel these days kind of thing. But because I'm reading Silver Age, or I'm reading whatever history throughout we had it, it's impossible not to go for it, especially when you get week for free, first of all, that's the first thing. That's why I did it straight away, because it gives me a whole week of reading. So if I want to just completely go bonkers for Marvel, I probably would completely doing that because I have a choice. So in that sense, it's really good. I honestly am kind of surprised how much I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah, cool. Well, and it's exactly what it's about, right? So that's exactly why you do it. It's enjoyable. Yeah. That's very cool.
Because as I say, I really wanted that history. I really want to get to know, like, this simple thing, Vision. I didn't even have a clue, because of so long time ago, the Human Torch android was first appeared in the Timely comic books. Do you know what? Young boys, I think there's issue 1 where there's 2 of them in there as well, which is like, your mind goes exploding. It's like, whoa, too much information. I'm going to step back from that point. But as I say, it's so much. If you want to discover something like of history part, this app is fantastic, absolutely fantastic for that.
We watched the newest WandaVision, and then afterwards we watched a YouTube video that went through all the Easter eggs and the amount of stuff that they were drawing out of that one episode. Like, all of us were sitting in the room, like our heads swimming of like, Jesus, this is insane. Like, oh, did you notice this and this costume and this background characters from here? It's like, oh my goodness, man. Like that's a lot of knowledge there. Yeah.
I must say this WandaVision is stepping up a notch, in my opinion. I mean, just seeing Piotr, the way they did, especially when they was just like plainly sitting down and having conversation, and Wanda's like, oh shit, and you see this, like the Piotr, like, oh my God, man. I mean, I would freak out if my brain would do that to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be in cuckoo house already. You know what I mean? So
did you hear that apparently the last 3 episodes are an hour long each as well too? So they're upping the length of the episodes too. Yeah. Wow. So that'll be good. Get more of a story, because again, this episode was, by the time it got to the end, it felt like it went so fast. It's like, okay, need some more here. Like, come on, you know. So especially an hour for each of the last ones. Last 3 rather. Yeah,
especially the Vision. Oh, that part when, oh my God, I was like, dude, this is harsh.
It was good, man. It was a good episode.
Yeah, and my husband was like really into it. I was like, oh, and I was like, I was actually swearing after it's finished, because it's that 30 minutes, and I was just getting into, like, your brain is just getting into information, the amount of it, and you're like, stop. I'm like, oh,
credits. Yeah.
It's like I want more, but then. Okay, I mean, people like really going crazy sometimes. Like you see some people saying, "How dare they like putting only 30 minutes of episode?" Like, dude, enjoy yourself. You're getting some information, you know, like good quality TV, for God's sake. So just, you know, have fun. I mean, it gets annoying too, because you enjoy it, and it's because of that you get annoyed.
Yeah, we watched that and we loved it. And then we also were watching some stuff with Lillian. So we watched the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies this weekend with Lillian as well.
I love
and my son. And it was really nice to see. I hadn't seen the first one for quite a while. I think the first one I only watched once. So it was really good to see it again. And that sense of humor and everything, it was so good. Really entertaining to see again. Yeah, and I can see that. You know, I'm sure that it's not going to be for everybody. I think you kind of have to like what the Marvel Cinematic stuff is doing to some degree. You know what I mean? Like I've said before, our family, we're really invested in the movie, so it was pretty much a no-brainer that we were going to check out the show. It wasn't even much of a conversation.
I think it's even.
That said, I'm not invested in the movies, and I still love the show. So
yeah.
Might be worth checking, John.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
My husband absolutely loves them as well. He is into it completely. He still talks about those first 2 episodes. It's like you're still talking about it. Yeah, I'm not like. It's like. I mean, it would be nice, kind of like he's like trying to like that, but it's really good. It's really good in general.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. What else did you read this week there, Damien?
Yeah, go on.
The favorite thing I showed you the Prince Valiant, but I didn't really read that, just looked at it. The favorite thing I read this week was 4 issues of Rima the Jungle Girl.
Oh, I have that.
Excellent. I'm glad you read it. I'm very curious about these.
Have you read it too?
No, never. No. I know the book, but I've never read it.
So I read like issue 6 a week ago or more, and just loved the art by Nestor Redondo. The covers are all by Joe Kubert, but the interiors are Nestor Redondo. And I love the art so much that I wanted more. And while I was at mycomicshop.com ordering weird war tales that I needed for the rest of the story, I just said, these aren't too expensive. I'll order these too. And I was blown away by how good it was, not just the art, which is incredible. This artist, Nestor Redondo, deserves way more credit than he's gotten in the past. But I mean, I know people who are really knowledgeable know about him. But
dude, look at that! Holy smokes, man!
Yeah, in this throwaway comic that no one knows about.
Amazing.
You know, talk about the beauty, the illustrative beauty of Hal Foster. This guy's right up there. He was one of the Filipino artists. And I found out that at one point he was drawing with Jerry Conway a retelling of La Morte d'Arthur, the Arthurian tales, and they were going to publish it as one of those Treasury-size editions in like 3 or 4 issues. But they canceled it. They canceled the Treasury editions, and it never got published. So somewhere out there is this guy drawing Treasury edition size King Arthur.
Wow.
But then it's actually this very sophisticated story. It doesn't take place in Africa, as I thought when I read issue 6. It's in the jungles of Venezuela, and the male character was part of a revolution that failed, and he flees into the jungle and goes to live with natives in the jungle. Let me see if I can find a picture of them, who fear this part of the jungle where this white jungle witch lives, named Rima, but he can't. And they tell him not to go there, but he can't resist going in there. And she basically can communicate with all animals and talks in a bird-like language. And so she's not a Tarzan character. She's more like a spirit of the forests, really. And it turns out this is based on a novel that was published in 1902 called Green Mansions, which they never mention in the comic, except someone in one of the letters pages mentions it, and they just don't even respond to his mentioning of it. So it's kind of almost like magical realism or something. And eventually she has to save his life when he gets bitten by a snake, and brings him to meet her grandfather. But then later in the stories, we learn he's not really her grandfather. He kind of adopted her when he met her mother, who was being raped by soldiers. But her mother was this ethereal creature who didn't speak English and just spoke like a bird. And and he helped her birth, helped deliver her. And the mother just slowly faded away and died. And so then he raised her in the jungle. And so it's just, so the first 4 issues are actually an adaptation of this novel that they never credit. So I think they were looking around for a character that they could have another jungle character, but not make it up themselves. So it's just this amazing magical story. But then apparently in the end of the novel, she is burnt to death by another tribe of Latin American Indians who think she's an evil spirit. But in the comic, the hero thinks she's burnt to death, and then in the last 2 pages, she shows back up so they can have more adventures. So that kind of took it down a notch. But other than that, it's a really amazing kind of sophisticated adult in the sense of, it has these layers to it kind of story.
Yeah.
And throughout, just the beautiful illustrations by Redondo.
Whoosh.
And I'm seeing someone saying that he did some Savage Sword of Conan work. I think he may have done some inking also of at Marvel, but him doing the illustrations is just really amazing. And he was the artist that followed Bernie Wrightson on The Swamp Thing, and I know his artwork was good there, but it just sort of really shines more here, maybe because I'm not comparing it to Bernie Wrightson.
Yeah.
And I think he did DC's Treasury side illustrated Bible, which it never occurred to me before to seek out, but I may look for that now.
Wow.
And sadly, I think he died around 1994, 95.
Oh no.
And then the other amazing thing in these issues is the backup story is a science fiction story. Why in a Jungle Book? I don't know. Called The Space Voyagers. And it's very abstract and not clear what's going on, but it's art by Alex Nino again.
Oh,
and it's amazing too. Although Alex Nino, kind of like Gene Colan, you don't fully get the effect of his art on cheap newsprint. So I wish someone would do a really fancy book reprinting a lot of Alex Nino art. That other comic I showed last time was published in the 80s on higher quality paper, and it gave a better effect. But this is still really cool and bizarre. But the stories don't make a lot of sense, maybe just because they're just 4 pages each. about some youthful space voyagers traveling around and having a different 4-page adventure in every issue.
Interesting.
But so if you can find these 4 Rima issues, I don't think they were on DC's DC Universe, the digital thing, but I guess if I still had it, I would look to see if they did.
They've popped up here in town a couple of times, but I've honestly never really given them a second look, other than I remember like that first cover is really burned in my memory because it's very striking with her standing there, right? But
right.
yeah, I mean, seeing the interior, it's like I've missed out. I got to look for these.
Yeah.
Those look amazing.
Yeah, there were I think 7 issues total. So the remaining 3 issues. Well, I haven't read all the remaining 3 issues, but judging from issue 6, they are more closer to a Tarzan type of story after they weren't adapting the novel.
And still the
but
same
they
guy?
still have the beautiful art.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, still the same guy.
Whoosh.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Oh my
It's like
great.
he's a hidden genius kind of.
Yeah.
That's so sad to see people, especially as the quality of that being like forgotten because they didn't get that blown up name because he's not probably from America at that time. So there you go.
One of these issues, I'm not sure which, had a one of those subscription things.
Okay.
That's not this one. But essentially, they were offering 36 comics, and in my anal way, I counted only 13 of the 36 comics were superhero comics. The rest were horror comics. This is 1974. Horror comics, romance comics, war comics, jungle action comics. It's not in that issue either. But DC was really doing a lot of stuff that we don't, we just think of them doing Superman and Batman and the Justice League. But at least in the early 70s, a lot of their line was this more sophisticated stuff that no one was paying attention to.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So I'm going to continue exploring that kind of that vein, I think, for a while now.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm wondering if that's where I know the name, because I know that I know the name, and it's got to be from some of those. I'm thinking like the horror anthologies or something.
He crops up in the horror anthologies here and there.
Yeah.
I think it just took these ones to make me really appreciate him fully.
Yeah.
It takes one comic to make people appreciate an artist, to be honest.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you kind of, your brain does a little pivot, and then suddenly you see what he's doing.
Exactly, and especially if you do it in like on the paper. For me, to find out about the artist, to be honest, is just that original printing is perfect. It's just beautiful to look at.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool.
What else have you been up to, Terrence?
I was just gonna say I was looking on my comic shop too, and you're right. Like even that first issue, I think they only have it for like $4 or $5. For some reason, issue 4 and 6 are more pricey. It might be because they're higher grades, but it seems
maybe I got the last low grade one, or they're actually in very nice shape. But the last lower grade for mycomickshop.com one on the number 4.
Cool.
Because I don't remember the prices I paid, but they all seemed, it was an easy thing to just add on to my order when I was already buying stuff.
That's really nice.
One thing that I was diving into this week that I just, I've been looking for. I was looking for this for a while. This has been on my radar for a while. This Sun Eater from Heavy Metal, issue 1 and issue number 2. They have out my comic shop where I have a pull list. They nicely put those aside for me. They also put aside an issue of Heavy Metal where they have a kind of prose piece of Sun Eaters in here as well too, which I haven't read yet. I dove right into the comics first, but there's just a couple of page text. It was neat flipping through this Heavy Metal. I mean, I think Damien and I have spoken about it before. I was picking them up for a little while, but I fell off it pretty quick because there wasn't stuff that really caught my attention. It didn't really get me kind of like the old Heavy Metal did. It was nice to support it and see what was going on. But overall, and it's the same with this one, there looks to be like some okay stuff. The one bonus with this one too is there's a Corbin interview here for a couple of pages, and then they have a piece, Murky World. I guess it's his continuing story in the heavy metals. So you get some Corbin. So I mean, that's obviously a bonus. But even for that, I don't know if it's worth picking up the entire magazine at whatever price is $13.99 American. I think that is. There's got to be.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's
I
expensive.
think I got that issue too with the interview with him, and I think Murky World ended the next issue or that issue.
Yeah.
So he finished it before he died, anyway.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to get it collected.
But I wanted to check out, because I like the heavy metal stuff, like, and I like that they're doing some floppies, especially because then it's just an alternative for, you know, the stories that kind of hit hard in the magazine to get their own thing. It's a pretty fun book. It appears to me, it's not 100% clear though. It appears to me a werewolf story. Really, really nice art. Really, really nice coloring. The one thing that I found really, really difficult was the way that they all talk. There's the one panel. There was one thing here, and I just couldn't help hearing Yoda's voice. The last line, on my way to him, I was. When met you, I did. And I just can't help hearing Yoda say that in my head when I read that kind of dialogue. So it really was off-putting, and I found it really challenging to. Sometimes I had to reread a couple of times to go, what the hell are they even talking about? What's going on? What did I miss? But what I'm gathering, like the gist of what I'm gathering, it's fun enough. I don't know if it's something that's blowing me away. It's for me, it's worth it. The art is incredible. I've always been a sucker for werewolf stories. Out of all the horror kind of icons, I would say werewolves are, you know, maybe for me what vampires are to other people. I love werewolf movies. So I'm going to stick with it. There was a little bit of, I was reading this book, Surface Tension, many years ago, and I'm blanking on his name now, the artist. There's parts of this art that really remind me of him. So there's a good double page there, full transformation. And yeah, it's interesting for sure. There was another, it looks like there's a couple of heavy metal. Yes, hello?
Who is the artist and the writer of these two?
So Dylan Spruce is the writer. Joe Harris. Illustrated by Diego Yapur. There's the credits there.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think Chaos and Comics was talking about it too. Yeah, excitement. Jedi seeks not those things. It's hilarious. It's really, and it really adds this kind of goofy tone when that's the voice you're hearing in your head. It really makes it hard to take the rest of the book seriously. So I found myself, especially once I got into the second issue, I was really just skimming over the dialogue. I was just kind of getting the very gist. And if I didn't catch something, I just kept going, which is unfortunate because I don't want to read a comic like that. I do want to be invested somewhat. As much as it's more about the art for me, it's still a little disappointing where I'm glossing over the dialogue to that degree, because it's just, if I sit and think about it too much, it's just completely nonsensical. But I think Chaos and Comics was saying the same thing. Just giving these heavy metal books a shot, I think is worth it. I mean, it's a thick, each of these are really thick. They're $4.99 US. And it's printed on really nice paper, etc. So it feels like it's a good value. Again, especially for a guy like me who doesn't have that much on the pull list anyway, I don't mind giving something like that a shot. I'll stick with it, see how long it goes, maybe give it another issue or two, and see if it picks up at all.
So it's just it's actually been released just recently, yes?
Yeah, it's still coming out. Yeah, so issue 2, I don't know when issue 2 came out. I don't know if it was like a couple of weeks ago. I think it's as recent as that for issue number 2. I'm not sure how long it's going. I'm guessing it's a mini series. Everything in heavy metal seems to be. So but I don't know how many issues it's supposed to be, if it's 4 or 6 or whatever. So if it's 4, I'll just finish it off and go for it.
How is your pull list, Terrence? Is it getting bigger?
Maybe. But the thing is, there's a couple of things that have ended. Like Mountainhead was on my pull list. That one's over now. So there was a couple. It feels like the stuff that I have on my pull list is mini series. It's not long running series. So when something ends, then it gives me a chance to try something else. And because there's a couple of books that I'm getting that I'm really enjoying, like this We Live and things, it's nice to have that. So I don't need to remember to get it. until they forget to give it to me. Then I need to remember. But normally, like I said, that's the one time that's happened. At least then I know that I won't miss it. It's at the shop waiting for me whenever I get a chance. But because of working from home, honestly, part of just getting out of the house, it's been kind of nice to go, even when they were just doing curbside, just to get out of the house, go for a drive, go and pick up, even if it's 1 or 2 comics. That some weeks there was 1 comic that I picked up, and I drive a half hour, but it just gets me out of the house and gets me going somewhere, right? To see somebody at a distance while they open the door a crack to have a brief conversation. But now that we can go in, it's a little bit different. It's nice to go and see the new place and just hang out. But again, getting out of the house. So
yeah.
So
are you allowed to like actually be in there and have a conversation, or is it still like sure, go away, pick up your stuff and go?
They don't want you there for a long period of time, but yeah, you can come in, and there's limits to the amount of people. So they have someone posted at the front door. I think their limit was, I think it's 6 customers. So there's the staff there, and then it's 6 customers due to the size of their place. And once they've hit that, the guy at the front door just locks the door. And it's, they don't explicitly say, get the hell out of here, but it's kind of an unspoken thing. Like, we love having you here and we want to show you the new place, but, kind of get your books. And especially if there's a lineup. The 2 times I've been inside, or 3 times that I've been inside, there hasn't been a lineup. It's been really quiet. It's been like me and maybe 2 other customers. So it's been really dead. So I've got to hang out a little longer. Especially because one of the owners, when he's there, I like to talk to him. Jeremy is his name. Super nice guy. Obviously known him for many, many years. So it's great to kind of just hear what's going on. So John's an employee at all his shops. I believe it. I believe that. They give you the keys, I'm guessing.
The thing
so
is,
I mean, it's nice to go in.
I actually kind of dreamed being in the shop now, to be honest. I haven't been so long. It just makes me, my brain goes like hurts now. It's like I want to go. It's just so, something like I just want to hunt in like those cheap bins, like the smelly, like get my niece in being in so much pain that I don't know what to do with them afterwards. Like, I don't know how to walk anymore. But this kind of like, and just having a chat, I miss that. I just random people you have never met before, because if you're not a regular in that in the shop, especially for me, because I don't have anything local, you go into the shop and then brave yourself to just speak out the word, and suddenly you have like a full-blown conversation, and that's what I really, really, really enjoy. I just
The one that I haven't been back to yet is Red River Books, one of my favorite places in town, because it's filled with old issues and long boxes after long boxes and 2 layers of magazines. And he's open. And I've heard from a couple of the guys on the Facebook groups, the Comic Addict Facebook groups. They've been there, and he's also, they were saying that he's also restocked them too. So he's brought some stuff from upstairs and from his storage to restock. So it's like, man, I just haven't had a chance to go there, unfortunately, because that's a trip where I hang out for like an hour and flip through the bins, or longer. It really depends on what my day looks like, right? So
yeah, John is saying that he's actually missing comic book shows and conventions. To be honest, I am not the biggest fan, but I do miss Dr. Monkeybot. Just seeing him browse through those boxes and the concentration, you guys. It's like, you kind of like, like for laugh, you like nudge him a couple of times. Hi, I'm still here. It's like, I'm concentrating. He has this list. No, it's like, come on, man, I want to talk to you. Kind of. No, I'm busy. This is like a couple of hours left. Like I need to pack up my suitcase. It's like, you always have the suitcase, and I always think like dead man. It's dead man inside. It's not comic book. It's a dead man.
That's a big suitcase.
Yeah,
he gets such amazing deals. I'm always amazed, or used to be amazed, when he would do those, show those things he got at those shops.
Yeah,
the Comic Mart, where we basically, it's beautiful place to go. It's like it's the best place. I actually now thinking all those like bigger books I have, which I didn't think that time it was kind of bigger books, but I was actually looking and hunting. They are from that place. So I was managing to get those many things from there. It's like those. The only time I was actually getting those Mobius stuff is from the Comic Mart. It's just like going there, some random people like having a little box there waiting for you, and there you go. It's amazing. So yeah, so that was like the highlight of the comic book collecting. Especially Ghost Critic couple of times showed up as well, and
that's
that's
right.
a conversation and a half. Like, wow, this is like, I feel like I'm having like a celebrity. Give me the signature kind of. Because at the end of the day, when I started YouTube, I started watching him. Damien was the first channel I watched, and then the Ghost Critic came through, then you, Terrence, came through, then suddenly Oddfellow Thoughts came through, then oh my god, then Clark Kent Jeans wasn't Clark Kent Jeans in that time. He was there as well with his bathroom conversations.
Bathroom videos,
I love those. It's like, and then it's like you hear a flush at the end of it. Like, exactly.
But I agree with him though. I really miss the little conventions. I can't wait for those. I mean, it's still a while to go for us here. We're not at that point yet, but I can't. I can't wait for that to go to those little cons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one con I went and I'm still remembering because of this fucking giant size X-Men novel. Whoosh, my husband actually realized and apologized for not letting me buy that comic book after like 5-6 years later. Like, oh, remember that book? Do you remember that price? Like, yes, now I can show you what the price is all about. It's like, oh shit.
Hilarious.
So, yeah.
So what else did you read this week, Rossa? Was it just the Marvel app stuff, or was it
well, that I still continue reading with that Graphite app, another digital thingy. I'm still reading this Orca Journey. It's actually quite dense read, and I am on the second book, and the story is continuously being fantastic. But I think something happens to our Orca main character. I haven't read to the point where he's actually gonna be. What happens to him? Is he like maybe dead? It's like, whoosh. There's like a couple of 2 more books left. So I was like, the main character is dead by book 2. How's that happened? So I don't know. But the artist continues to be absolutely fantastic. Oh my god! Learn Rasa camera. Look, camera this way. So
make yourself. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So you have this beautiful art, continues to be spectacular.
Yeah, I love it.
The story and the scenes is I have wait a second because it's free. I have to look at an ad, but bullshit. No, but you have different moments of like a Moose Now setting as well. Where you have like this robotic ninja comes through the town, and where he's basically I think killing our main character in here. So it's very kind of sad in a way, because of if it's true what would happen to the like our other characters, because they basically depend on him. He's in charge and they follow him basically. But there's this aura of mystery, and his ninja, or the guy who is like a friend of his, who is that having this crazy mask. He has a past we haven't discovered yet, and he's intriguing because of his superpower. He's very like strong as a samurai as well, and he in his fight is sometimes like he gets really injured, but he doesn't like dies. He's always somehow survives. So and a lot of people are trying to kill him, our main character, because he has a past, and we're discovering throughout the storyline. So very entertaining, full like proper samurai storyline you're reading, and you're enjoying the journey, because that's what it takes, So as I say, I'm still continue reading. As I say, Marvel really did a number on my other reading, but now my concentration there. To be honest, I was actually like, do you remember I was having that wine in the last conversation, and I was talking about Lois Lane, and I was very naughty. I went online and have a look for it, but thankfully that naughtiness didn't come to the press in the button. So. but I was really tempted, to be honest, because I honestly want to kind of have that kind of like DC characters, female interpretations, because I had fun having to read like about Sue Storm kind of thing. Like all the females are in that era written are really funny and not in a good way kind of thing. They're all those damsels in distress. They don't know what they're talking about. They need men to be able to do whatever they do, like kind of that stuff. But it, like as a kind of comic fan, want to expand that level of knowledge, of understanding. So I'm gonna press the button one day, but my frugal side is still saying no, so which is good, which is really good. My son's birthday is more important now. It's like,
yeah.
Son's birthday present or comic book? No, okay, son's birthday.
Did you find lots of them, or were they just kind of issue here or there, like single issues, or did you find a seller that had a chunk?
No, there was a seller who had a chunk, which was fascinating because it was very tempting, because they had like about 20 Lois Lane's comics, but they were like going for like £35, I think.
Yeah. But
there was on a bid still, and I wasn't keen on bidding first. Second, the price was already out of my part, so I just didn't go. Like, I didn't commit. I really wanted to, though, because I was fascinated to basically find out about anything Lois Lane, and especially that I was mentioning that person, Lex Luthor's sister, and that comic, that the issue was available to buy from one of our websites, and I was like, oh my god, I can go and get it, But it's like, nope. My sane mind was prevailing, so I was like, yeah. Wine didn't win in that time.
Well, maybe the DC Universe app will come your way eventually, and they do have some of the Lois Lane on that.
Oh, is it? Interesting. That's great.
Or when you go back to Comic Mart finally, because I don't buy those things except when I find them at a modest price.
To be honest, the
Lois Lane, keep looking, you'll find them.
The prices I was looking at, they were like £10 an issue, to be honest. So it's quite pricey to be. And they were like in addition, or like the quality of like very good, fine, which is, I mean, Lois Lane has never been something like for so completely popular. So having her in that kind of price tag, like, you kind of debate. That's why I'm debating, to be honest. That's why I was looking though for the copy for like less than, let's say, with delivery it would be like around, let's say, £7. I would reach there, because not like you always have to, postage is not always for free. So, and the prices of postages now in this country is kind of increasing. So even like, look who's here, Roger.
Oh, Roger.
Hello, Roger. So it's like I always look for deal, but like when you buy online, then that's the problem. Find it buying online very frustrating, because what you see sometimes is not what you get. Even like when I was like selling, I remember I was selling the book to get the money, and I was like putting the price what suppose eBay was selling me the good price for the postage, and because I am good, like I don't want to damage the book in the postage, I packed quite well, make sure everything is neat and tidy, and my price increased by £3. So I was like, oh my shit. I was like, okay, this is like, I have to learn, rather not listen to what eBay says, and then just actually look in the post website and actually decides what you're going to do.
I did the same with the books that I posted recently, because I've been selling so much stuff music-wise, records, CDs, and everything. I chose the option of just set my own rate. I undercut it just a tiny bit, just to make it that much more appealing to people. So I think I was charging $20 Canadian, $25 Canadian. It depended, and that, because I sold 2 books on there recently for kind of got a good price on both of them. And I think that I like to think that helped. I'm not at the point yet where I feel I can offer free shipping. I don't want to eat that much of the cost, but I felt like just kind of even that $5 to $10 Canadian cut worked. I'd like to think that it worked. I feel like it got more people watching the auction the listing, and more people looking at it and stuff. So
well, the thing is,
you kind of have to do something like that, because I agree with you. You let them set it, and it's just these insane prices. That's like, well, I know for a fact I can ship it for less than that, and it still get there really securely, still ship it really safely and packed nicely, right? So
To be honest, you can. I mean, I always do like this. If I sell something online, especially, I always tend to make sure I package the way I would like to receive it, because I tend
Yeah.
it gets me it bothers me, because I'm kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, of course it's not a very good business practice. Let's say if I will take it to the business side, you have to like cut every single penny to make your profit. But when I'm doing it like this, like for example sending a hardcover book, those corners are, oh, they go one bump and that's it. You can't,
Yeah.
like you can't get rid of it very easily. So I was like packing it nicely, make sure, and it wasn't heavy actually. It's just
Mhm.
because I reached the size, like of the package. I was
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, I can say, I can give you like cheaper price, but you have to like kind of like, or send it like it takes longer to get there, blah blah blah. I was like, nah, just do it. I'll one die from £3, but lesson learned. You know what I mean? You learn this kind of stuff hard way sometimes. But like a comic books is like this kind of floppies. I always sandwich them all the time, no matter whatever I
Yeah.
do.
Same.
Sandwich, just sandwich, and don't skim on one like people send you. They put a cardboard here, yeah, but then they don't put it on top.
Mhm.
What's the whole point? So don't
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
at all. Then forget about it. Then do you know what I mean? So in this sense,
Yeah.
like,
I think
yeah,
the other savings for me too was like over the years, we save all our mailers. Like when we get stuff in the mail, we have
yeah,
a stockpile of those. So so that's a cost that I don't have to go and buy, right? I don't have to
yeah,
buy those. I've even got a couple of Gemini mailers that I've gotten over the years, right? So I throw it back right in there and it has everything I need. It has the dual cardboard and everything already,
yeah,
right? So I
yeah,
think that's also why people charge what they do sometimes, because they're
yeah,
because they're buying the actual boxes and they expect you to pay for their shipping supplies to some degree,
yeah,
which I always
yeah.
kind of don't agree with. It's like, well, you're selling it. You should, I feel that the seller should eat that cost. I don't mind eating that cost, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like I had sometimes like okay, I was asking like one time I was selling a comic book and I was asking 50p extra for the packaging, and some guy wrote me a like really angry like message like, how dare you asking 50p extra for your like,
Yeah.
it's like, why are you looking at my post then? Don't look.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with my
Yeah,
prices,
exactly.
don't go for it. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a free world kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Oh man, Sergeant America. Yeah. Make some videos, man. We haven't seen,
yes,
speaking of the
yes.
throne room, we haven't seen a Sergeant America video from the comic
Yeah.
cave.
Yeah, exactly. So in generally, I think like packaging or posting, you should learn lessons by sending stuff, but make sure you like
Just pack
somehow
it
try
properly.
to put,
Yeah.
try to put it something in, and it doesn't. Honestly, eBay charges just like as minimal postage you have to put on as possible, and the prices will be correct. But then, if you want to be a bit more safer, unfortunately, you have to start thinking about it, especially in here in UK. I'm not sure. I'm not talking about you guys, whatever happens in Canada or America or anybody else. But in UK, you have to like really kind of like the size. It's like, it was like, it's just the size. Come on, you can't put it through the box. It fits. No, it's too
Yeah.
long. I
Yeah.
was like, oh dear, what? It's like, why?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Anyway, Damien, you need to see what you have read. I see the girl thingy on your thingy. I want to see. Your thingy
Muted.
is muted. Yeah, sorry. I'm losing my mind.
Okay, I've unmuted my. Have you guys heard of Girl?
I
By
heard
Peter
something.
Heard of it,
Milligan?
yeah, but didn't read it. No.
I
Yeah,
think
I wanted to get it.
they just released it in this a few weeks ago in this really tiny. It was just 3 issues. This really tiny, very cheap.
Oh,
So there's the original covers.
nice.
It was a Vertigo
That's
book
cool.
in like 1997 when no one was reading comics.
Yes.
And interestingly, it's from something called Vertigo Verite. But
Ooh,
it's not a true life story as far as I can tell. But I guess the idea is it's not, a normal genre kind of story. But it's about, what is it about? It's about a 15-year-old girl living in some very blue-collar town in England. And I don't know if it's a joke on a specific town.
Okay. You know which town it is?
Luna Brothers either had Girl or Girls. Clark Kent wrote, didn't the Luna Brothers have a title with the same name? Now that one was a wild fantasy story.
Okay.
But what this does do is she seems to be having mental health problems, and we go into her fantasies a lot. It has this really great art by Duncan Fegredo, who I haven't seen comics by lately, but I remember seeing a lot of comics with his art in it when I first sort of came back to comics in a big way back in 2012 or 2011. But I really liked the art, and I liked the story structure, which is in a series of chapters, little short pieces, like chapter 1, My Life as a Social Engineer. So it kind of gives you a what's the right word, like a tapestry or a collage of different events in her life that start connecting as you go along.
Ooh, I like
it was
the
a
colors.
very since I've mostly been reading Silver Age and Rima this week, it was a big shock to jump into this. You know, and her father's like soccer obsessed. Her father and her mother are obsessed by the lottery, soccer, and I think just sitting around watching TV and drinking. And the father kills her dog, and then she thinks she's killed her father. But later it turns out, if it's real, that her mother killed her father. It's one of these stories you don't know which things are real and which things are her kind of hallucinations or imagination.
Wow.
So it's kind of intense. Yeah, so I recommend it if you're in the mood for kind of intense, difficult book. I did, as an American, I have a lot of trouble with the class kind of issues going, not trouble with it, trouble understanding fully the implications of all the class issues that these British writers talk about.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
It made me think of like when I read interviews with with Alan Moore, he always comes back to the fact that he came from a working class family. Like that means a huge amount. In America, that means a little bit, but not it's not so significant, or so it seems in our culture. But the portrayal of the the working class family is pretty awful. They seem like pretty awful people, I guess. Though we're supposed to understand, what in their society made them into these awful people.
Yeah.
But so for me, some of the implications of what's going on here, or what Peter Milligan's point of view on it really is a little hard for me to totally grasp.
I like Peter Milligan, so for me, I actually I've seen that one, but like my pull list is so tiny, I've never picked it up. But I was curious because in that time when it came out, I think we were and Terrence had the Peter Milligan reading thingy going on, like from Vertigo. So that's why I was like looking at it as well, and I wanted to go. But the feel of it's very Vertigo, kind of like inside as well. The art.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
It's kind of classic Vertigo art.
Exactly. Yeah. Even those artists that I don't immediately know their name, it's funny seeing them, and it's really still of that era of Vertigo.
Yeah,
it looks really good though. I've never seen it out in the wild, the original issues. I'd love to read it.
Right. They probably the print runs were very low in 1997, I'm guessing. I think that was kind of the nadir of comic book publishing.
Yeah.
Thought it was going to die. Yeah. The other thing is, it's a little weird. Now that I have a 12-year-old daughter, soon she will be 15, which is the age of this girl. It's a little weird for what must have been a somewhat middle-aged man writing about a 15-year-old girl, and I don't know what his basis was for
very interesting.
There's stuff about her deciding to lose her virginity and things like that, and it's I would feel, now that I'm of this phase in my life where I have a daughter, I might feel more comfortable if it were a woman writing about that kind of issue than a man. But it's nothing exploitative or anything. But the way she handles it, would a woman write it that way? I don't know. And of course, different women would write it different ways.
On the front cover there, Damien, did I see that said Black Label?
Yes. So it's published now as Black Label.
Okay.
So anything, I think DC, just anything for adults is Black Label. Vertigo is totally gone.
I see.
And
Do you know if there's any plans to reprint other kind of Vertigo stuff in that format? Because they haven't done it previously, have they?
Yeah, I do not. This was only $8, $7.99. So, and I got it for a discount at my shop, but
that's nice.
So it's quite affordable. But probably if you can find the back issues, they're probably dollar issues, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to find them.
You have to find them, which could be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the issue. Here's the chapter, My Life as a Slut. So, I think if I were 20, I wouldn't stop and think about, why is a man in his 30s or 40s writing about a 15-year-old girl? But now I have a different feeling about that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing horrible about it. It does, I just don't know what life is like for the working class British. Like there's a bunch of kids who are just always riding up and down the elevator, playing some game called Condoms versus Needles. I mean, I don't know what that's about. It seems like they're just wasting their life in the worst possible way. But
well, I've been living in this country for quite some time now, but the class thing is actually being placed in your face quite often, especially if you get involved with people talking conversations, and especially where you live, it's very important. Like, for example, me and my husband now live in Oxfordshire, and there's a perception that we are supposedly extremely rich and we have everything around us. It's like, dude, we're living in here because we kind of like, my husband needs to live close by to his work, so that's why we kind of plotted in here. But people, no matter how many times you're going to explain that to people, they want, it's like, so why do you choose to live here? It's like there's other closer areas. Like, okay, if I move somewhere closer to other areas, they say to be, is there as expensive as this one? So like, or sometimes like they talk about those kids and working class, they usually live in those apartment buildings, like those, one of the famous ones which actually burned down, but like the horrible accident happened.
Yeah. Yes,
I used to actually live in one. I rented the place with my friends, so kind of like they not your place to be at. Kind of in nighttime, I was young, stupid, I had no money, so I had to choose somewhere to live, especially in London. I chose to live in that, like with my friends, because it was cheap enough for us. But honestly, the characters we used to meet in those places where I used to live, you wouldn't want it to be there. Like kind of at nighttime by yourself, female. If you're just having a makeup, that's enough. Like don't have to be like they call it. Oh, you don't have to be attractive. Like kind of things like, okay, thanks, kind of thing. But you know what I mean? It's just in saying that kind of thing. Like, yeah. I am like where I live at the moment. Like I live south, like east, it's still southeast of England. So close, quite close to London. Not close enough, but close according to lots of people now living, especially like the situations happening in the world. So and my husband still works 45 minutes drive away from here, so still far away, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of you live your consequences what you do and what. But honestly, we just mentioned that we live close to Oxford. We used to live actually quite close to Oxford before, and ooh, how fancy! Like every single time, it's like, okay, yeah, it's just a university town. There's not, I mean, so many posh people, to be honest. Like you see the Queen go for hunts and she wears those green attire, like those autumn things. You see that everywhere in Oxford. It's like, oh my god, did you go hunting? Is it hunting season? Kind of thing. Like everyone wearing the same kind of outfit. Those like super expensive ghettos. It's like, and then. But like you can meet that kind of class of people, and everybody's driving Land Rovers. That's true in this area. It's like, oh, what car you have? Land Rover. Oh, okay. Oh, you don't have Land Rover. Oh, damn. Kind of like they look at you like pity you, kind of thing. You're like, eh?
And that's gotta be why, like you're touching on it there with the Queen and stuff. That's gotta be why there's always been this, because it's so hyper focused there that you have this royal class, and then you have people that live in like Birmingham and Newcastle and things like that, right? Like the kind of the stereotypes that go with that. I mean, even here we've heard about those kind of things too. Like that's exactly what it's got to come from. And then you think of like the punk rock and things, and that real attitude of this real class warfare, class struggle and stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. We get some of that
it's
here within the different suburbs, but I don't know if there's ever a conversation about it. I can't think of it being a conversation Canada-wide. You do hear it in like Winnipeg itself, you know, oh, you live in this area town, same kind of things, like, oh, must be nice. It's like, well, it has nothing to do with anything. It's just where we ended up, right? Or whatever, you know. So
it's like life like things happens, you know, like you end up being in the places where you are. Yeah, I can't stop concentrating, like looking what Clark Jeans is talking. Yeah, but honestly, it's the minute you go higher kind of thing, it's like, well, they already, like, if you live in south basically of England, that's who becomes like, ooh, damn, because the prices of the housing is like skyrockets. And imagine this. So let's say I'm gonna now talk housing. Anyway, so I need to drive about 35 miles up, and the prices of housing is already dropped by 50 grand. So it's crazy what prices are south, because for example, where we live now, I would be living on almost like 5-bedroom house if I live in north. But of course, you have to have funds for that. So what I'm talking about, the rental prices, like we rented the house in here, we have 3 bedrooms in here. But if I would go just kind of up, live in north, I would have 5 bedrooms, maybe even like, honestly, the garden, like to the point of like hunting party kind of. I'm exaggerating, but do you understand? I'm just trying to put that differences in between. But to get a job and live there is another story. You have to be able to. That's why people are going south, because that's where the job is. That's where the money is. That's where most of the people live in London, because that's where you have to work your ass off to do that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. And I mean, not to get into it too deeply, but I mean, even in the States, Damien, it's gotta be more of a topic of conversation these days, right? Like the kind of poverty versus the 1% stuff. So.
It doesn't feel like a fixed thing. At least from my perception. Like the neighborhood that I live in, that I've lived in for 25 years, when I moved into it, the highest paid people in the neighborhood were school teachers. Now school teachers could not afford this neighborhood. I bought a house in 94, 95, 96, somewhere around there. And it was cheap. And the only way I could afford it, because I had a low paid job, was to have housemates. But I did manage to buy a house, and suddenly when we sent our daughter to school, we realized, wait, now everyone's lawyers and doctors. What happened? It's not the neighborhood we thought we moved into, and it just changes very quickly.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't it would be rare in a U.S. comic to just show the parents sitting around just playing lottery tickets, not working, kicking the dog, drinking, and watching soccer.
Yeah.
Like that's not how we would present the working class in the United States usually.
Yes.
If you did present it that way, you'd have to have a very specific reason for that. So I just don't know, when I see details like that, I don't know what the angle is from a British point of view or a Peter Milligan point of view.
Interesting. I mean, I guess maybe even just representing that class that's out there, like those people that are out there, you know, to give it some more of that realism for people to attach onto, I guess, if you're exposed to that kind of world, right? Yeah.
I mean, the only people we kind of view as trapped in poverty usually are minorities, and even then we usually present them as struggling to get out of it.
Yes.
So that may just be a mindset as opposed to whatever the realities are.
Yeah.
So it just had that kind of weird. I enjoyed reading it a lot, and I thought it was very good. Peter Milligan. He's written a lot. He's written a lot all over the place.
Yeah. I like him as well. He's gets the point, plays around in your mind. But I'm really curious about that book now because of the
me as well.
Because of the class thingy. I'm kind of curious as well to see what kind of his perception of class is as well, especially in the comic book scene kind of thing. But perception of like the classes stuff. I always kind of like, you know, like when you live your life and you turn like in the country where it's actually quite noticeable in conversations and everything, I tend to kind of like brush it off. I never tend to like think about it, to not to basically feel horrible if I am like I don't want to like, oh, if you reach the middle class, you have to have this. And they keep on talking to you about that. You know what I mean? Like have a house, That's the one thing. Then, okay, you have to reach that kind of like levels in order to get to that point. You know what I mean? So that's the goals. And other people says, and the people sitting watching telly and doing nothing kind of things, and usually soccer and lottery. This main goals kind of thing most of the time happens as well. It's like soccer, like you guys, football. It's big. It's massive. It's what the dreams of kids are when they live in like those sky buildings where, you know, like those flats, and then the only thing they dream of is to become a footballer and start earning like shitloads of money for just kicking a ball, you know, like insane that. I'm not saying you have to have abilities, of course, don't forget me. I'm not gonna start reaching that part of like getting people angry just because just kick a ball, but but you know what I mean. But the amount of money these sportsmen get in this country is like from nothing to almost like trillionaire, to be honest.
It's
like,
insane. Yeah.
Like the story of Wayne Rooney, let's talk that one. The kid who had nothing, like literally nothing. Now he doesn't know where to put his money at the end of the day. I mean, we're not talking about Beckham and all that stuff and his voice, and it's like, oh my God. The minute when I came to, because I'm when I came in this country, I'm not into football at all. I World Cup only. But in here, you can't stop. I go to pub, have a drink, and you suddenly get involved in a football match. Like, why I'm watching this? Well, I'm enjoying. I'm having a pint. It's like you're almost having conversation, and you are almost having conversation about football. It's like, okay, what's going on here? It's like, I mean, I like sport. Don't get me wrong, but for me, it's exciting to watch sport and everything. Basketball, that kind of rugby, I can talk that for hours. But football is the last thing I want to do anyway.
Sports are always better when you're watching them with excited people, right? I mean, like I never liked basketball, but then I watched some games with some people who are really into basketball, and suddenly I liked it.
Well, that's the thing is, like for me, I never, before I met my husband, I didn't even know rugby existed. Now rugby is my almost number one sport because it's kind of, when we met, he introduced me to rugby by mistake. I don't watch rugby. Why do you like rugby? It's like, I'm married to a South African who doesn't watch rugby, but I'm absolutely obsessed with rugby now. So it's like, what's going on here, kind of thing. But you know, like it gets to the point of that kind of thing.
Crazy. So just to jump off of what Damien talking Peter Milligan,
let's talk on this.
I picked this up the other day, like yesterday actually. It's some, like I had one of the guys in town. I've hit a couple of his auctions. I know him fairly well. He's held on to stuff for me for quite a few months because he's always, I don't mind holding. I'm going to have another auction and I can kind of add to the pile. So he ended up buying a bunch of stuff for me. So we kind of finally made the exchange yesterday. I was looking into it yesterday. So this is John Michael McCarthy, brother of Brendan McCarthy, doing what is actually a 2-issue series. For some reason, you know, I should stop relying on the CLZ app because CLZ just doesn't have everything listed. I was looking online. There was 2 issues that came out, which is good because this one has a to be continued. I know that because this Monster Comics was an offshoot of Fantagraphics, and it had just a few. It didn't have many titles, and I don't think it lasted very long. So this is March 1991. And it was an interesting story. So he's done. So McCarthy has worked on, I think it was called Bad Company for 2000 AD, which I think I have one comic floating around. He's done a lot of, it looked like from research, he did a lot of rock and roll artist kind of comics. I think there was a Guns N' Roses thing. There might have been a Metallica. I don't remember all the details, but he's done those kind of comics and written some books. So this one had sort of, and once I found out who he was and who his relation, it put this book into a little more perspective. Because when I was reading it, I didn't quite know what I was getting into. This first page is a woman who actually got into the White House and killed some politicians and was going to kill the president. She's now being sentenced to the death chair, and she gets fried in the first couple of pages here. And we get introduced to some of these other characters who, you know, this one girl who is very bald and you know, kind of unkempt, has to go out in a wig to kind of present herself a certain way. And just these kind of odd characters who are, they're going to a punk rock show. I just wanted to show these panels, if it'll focus. There we go. Because like with a lot of the comics, when you get into the environmental stuff, I love it. And I love the rain in these panels and the way he's walking, his figure, the way his stance is there. I absolutely love it. There's some really beautiful black and white art in here. So it just kind of goes from there, and they're all these kind of outcasts and rejects to some degree, and kind of extreme maybe in their kind of worldly point of view and what they want to do with their lives, even though they don't quite know. And then we get introduced to a sort of Dr. Frankenstein character who is at this, I guess it's an auction for Marilyn Monroe's head, to buy Marilyn Monroe's head that was robbed from the grave, because he's putting together his ideal woman and he wants that head. So it just takes all these kind of strange twists and turns where I was kind of not really sure. But again, like I said, once I found out who he was and that he came from kind of British comics, it made a little more sense, the kind of absurdity and kind of mild nihilism of the whole book. But like I said, beautiful art. The story was good enough. I mean, it got me to the end of the book. And then there's the band that they're going to see called the Third Graders. So very cool. So I'm hoping I can find the second issue as well, just to see where it goes at the end. Cool. But a pretty fun read. And like I said, there's not a ton from Monster Comics out there, but the stuff that I have, I think there was a book called Prey. There's a few other ones I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but my thought was that Monster was supposed to be them kind of digging into putting out something that would be considered more superhero books. But then I read this, I think that's also where my confusion came, because that's how I understood it, that Monster Comics was going to be their sort of small imprint for stuff that would be more mainstream. And then I read this one, it's like, this is pretty far away from mainstream. So I don't quite know. Maybe I don't know the years that Monster was running either, but maybe that kind of direction shifted through it. So, but yeah, that was one I just read today.
You always find the coolest comics.
I mean, and that's the thing with these. It's the thing with these, especially now, because nobody's going out. Like, there were so many auctions. People from the Winnipeg Comic Collectors and Comic Addicts, they were putting on a ton of auctions. So it's like flipping through the long boxes, right? Because people are posting whatever. And again, because I know some of these guys, they'll usually put stuff on there that they know might appeal to me. And not that it's just me, there's a few of us out there that'll buy this kind of stuff. But I find that especially if I'm watching an auction and I'm talking to those guys, they'll kind of dig through the boxes to see if they have anything a little more obscure. Because a couple of these guys, this guy I bought from, he buys big collections all the time. He actually just bought a big collection. We were talking about it. In the collection was an X-Men 1 and an X-Men 2. But amongst there was also a ton, he was saying, a ton of independent and underground. He said there's a boatload of Corbin stuff. One of the other things that I picked up from him was first issue of the Rook magazine, which I know you've talked about before, Damien. Yeah. He has a whole run of, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, were there 2 different series of the Rook magazine, or was there just the one?
Dark Horse published it recently. Whoa. They revived it recently.
Wow,
okay.
Reader 1717.
Cammy. Hey.
Wow, hello.
Hello.
So this collection that he bought, I guess, a ton of Corbin stuff and a ton of all these other things. So he was saying that he's going to probably run another auction where he's going to put a lot of those stuff. But I'm hoping he did mention it to me. He's like, I'll get in touch with you if there's, maybe we can do a side deal. So I'm hoping that there's some gems in there. But because they buy all these collections and they're pretty adventurous, and especially with those groups online, they know that there's going to be certain niches. And I'm just one of those niches where if they have something, they don't know what the hell it is, and they want to sell it for $1, I'll gladly pay $1 for it. You know what I mean? So it kind of works out in my favor. But it really was it really kind of reminds me of flipping through the long boxes, looking at those auctions, just because of the variety that's usually there. We're great, Cammy. Never mind us. How the heck are you? It's been forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's an old YouTubers reunion today.
It really is.
We had Roger, we had John, we have Cammy.
I wish I had it within
America.
I just picked up a basket case cassette. They finally released the Basket Case soundtrack, Cami, and I bought it on cassette recently from, and I'm blanking the name of the company, but as soon as I bought it and it showed up at the door, I thought of you immediately. But I don't think you're on Twitter or any of the social media, and I don't really check Instagram anymore, but I thought of you immediately when I got it.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so that was the one. I got one more if I can do another quick one.
Yeah,
Oh
that'd be
yeah,
nice.
go, of course.
I do want to get to it with this
Yeah,
stack.
yeah.
He used to be known as the Mentalist Dave. Speaking of YouTubers, past and present, he's checked out stuff in the past. Like he's been watching. I think he watched us live once or twice. He contacted me and said, "Listen, have you heard of The Real Deal?" I had heard of it. He said, "I have a copy that I want to send you." It took a few months to get here, but it did get here finally, and I sat down right away to read it. And I can honestly say that out of everything that I've read in my life, I don't think I've ever read anything quite like The Real Deal. So these were guys, again, if we're going to talk like class and things like that, these were just laborers just doing these shitty jobs to get by day to day. They kind of became friends, and they decided they were going to write a comic book together. It just came out in one of their hangouts. He talks about it in here, that they had this kind of back room where they would have cigarettes and booze stashed, where they would sneak off so they can go and have a drink and just kind of shoot the shit together. And all of a sudden it came to comics, and he was Lawrence Raw Dog Hubbard is the guy that's still alive. J Bone, RD Bone, I think, is the other guy, and he's passed. He passed away, unfortunately. He showed him some comics that he was doing, and they just started talking about creating something together. And this is really what they wanted to do, was really show kind of really extreme situations that they've either experienced in their lives or seen in their neighborhoods. It is some ultra violent. There's not much good in the way going on in this world here, but it's a really intriguing read because of all that, because it's really from a very, very unique, we talk about I talk about kind of naive artists and kind of people that have to do art because they just have to. This is exactly where this is coming from. They had to create this stuff, and it was something to help keep them sane. And they printed everything themselves. I think I was talking to a guy on Twitter. He said he actually has the single issues of this. And each one was a different size, a different format, just because they didn't really know the basics of printing comics and how to kind of get everything in one particular size. Because I think one of the stories he tells is bringing the art to the printer and them looking at it and go, well, we can't, you have very limited options because of the size that he was kind of doing the art on. We don't have the option of shrinking or expanding or whatever it was to get you kind of a quote unquote regular comic book size. I mean, he apparently even approached Marvel with this book as well too. And he approached a bunch of companies and got kind of just regular, basically refusal letters, the usual template. And he talks about the one he got from Marvel was somebody actually sat down and wrote it to say, listen, this is an incredible comic. We love this comic, but there's no way in hell we can publish this. But we wanted to write you, a personal mail letter because we absolutely loved it, So whoever he got in touch with there, I don't think he meant.
What era was this published in?
That's a good question. I want to say, so first released in 1989, because I was going to say late 80s, early 90s.
Long after underground comics were an option.
Exactly. Yeah. And this really feels like that. And there's some amazing back matter as well. I'll just flip to, they show you all of the covers. So here's a look at some of the covers, for the issues.
Wow.
And then they have, like I said, they have some interviews. I haven't read all of the interview stuff yet. This last one specifically, I haven't read everything, but here's the two creators there. And like I said, Raw Dog is still alive. And actually he was interviewed on the Kayfabe channel. And it was quite an interview because these aren't guys, again, that know the history of comics they didn't grow up reading Marvel and DC. They don't know the first thing about some of the creators, because I think even in that interview, Jim and Ed are dropping names and he's just looking like, I have no idea who you're talking about. So they really were coming to this from an outsider perspective, where they were creating it because they needed to create it. They needed to do something. So it's a hell of a read though, but it's definitely not something to leave lying around. Even I read a lot of extreme stuff. Even when I was reading this one, I kept looking over my shoulders to make sure my daughter wasn't around. And she caught me a couple of times closing it. And she said, "Why do you keep closing that when I come around?" This is not for you. That's why. This is absolutely not for you. So just be forewarned, if you do go into it, it is, again, we're dealing with some ultra violence in here, and, you know, people that it's extreme, but it's entertaining, man. It's a quick read. It's very entertaining. So yeah, but not for the faint of heart, basically. So yeah, I wanted to just thank Mentalist Dave there for this one for sure, because this is an incredible thing. It has been on the list of a book that I wanted to pick up at some point, but as all of us know, that list just continues to grow and you can't get to everything. So I really appreciate it.
Well, that's very cool.
Very cool.
It's something,
guys,
man. Yeah.
I think I have to go.
Okay.
Okay.
We've got some friends coming over whose power was out, and anyway, we're gonna hang out at a great distance with masks on while they charge up their phones because they have no power.
Well, that's very good.
Crazy. Well,
but it was
hopefully
great hanging out with you guys.
Hopefully nothing crashes on you there, Damien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance then to torture Rasa with more Lois Lane.
Oh shit!
So some other time. And I was going to show you guys this Frank Frazetta book I got.
Oh, come on, man.
Another time.
Okay.
So thanks a lot for letting me join you. And
thanks, Damien. Nice to see you, man.
See you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Well, and there was two.
Yes. Back to the duo. Did you read anything else? What else did you have?
You know what? I think I did read, but I honestly, I actually don't know what I read. My brain is filled with information because I'm concentrating on my son's things and stuff, and looking at, like, I found this hard drive we stashed away for years, and I plugged it in, and it's like, there's pictures of my wedding, my big pictures, some of pictures of my son who just been born. You know, like, you forget because, you know, you go with the time, kids growing up, and then, but I saw him, like, when he's like just 6 months, and he's like, the changes the kid goes through. It's like, whoosh. And you're, as a parent, you can, like, as I say, you see your kid going through the stuff and you forget. But then thankfully, you have those pictures to remind you of the time. I was like, so I guess my memory is, I'm just because it's his birthday coming up. So I guess it's natural, I guess, to just start 100%. Thinking about this. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and as he gets older, you'll find, you know, even my wife and I, we sometimes lay there in bed talking or whatever. We'll start scrolling through photos of all this, and we just all of a sudden get in this mode of looking at baby pictures, like, oh my God, look how cute she is, you know, and you just get into that. It just happens. Oh my God, she's so big now, you know, all of that conversation, right? But yeah.
I honestly, I mean, seeing my nephew as well, like seeing your son, because like seeing your son in the pictures, and I remember seeing you having conversation on the couch with him. It's like, oh my God. And then my nephew is almost like similar. My nephew's 16, going 17 now. Yeah. And he's a man kind of thing now because they are growing so quickly. And the voice, I remember when he came to visit me, he spoke and he's like, okay, this is it, man. Now you're going to go buy me alcohol. And he's like, looks at me like, what? Because I like to always give him, like, you know, like shits, like this stuff like that. So that's it. This is it. Go. Here's the 20 pounds. Go buy me a beer. It's like what? It's like, crazy. So it's crazy. Time goes by. Anyway, but I'm really excited about this Marvel app. I mean, I'm sorry, talking digital, and it's horrible.
It's totally fine. Yeah.
But it's really good. It's like I highly recommend you to check it out if you can somehow. But because it's like, it gives you that week for free, and you can just see those stuff and Doctor Strange stuff. It's like, oof, The art
Yeah.
is the Gene Colan stuff. It's so amazing, even looking in that digital format. So I'm really excited because I kind of like want to read as much as I can for this week, for free week I have to see. Am I still committed that much into the time spent, especially for Marvel? Because like you can, that's enough information already, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
they even give you suggestions, of course. Like
Of course.
this is like there's a movie, there's the TV show. Oh, read this one. There's recommended read it, like people what to be reading, and like for this week or whatever that week would have come out. And you're like, oh my
smart, man. It's smart business,
like this, like series Spotlight, WandaVision, and
Yeah.
so that's where I actually was looking, and I was like, oh damn, like it gives you even the Vision, the series from Tom Kim came out as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Also gives you the like mini series as well, which is actually quite fantastic too, because I have seen them to buy, but I never committed to buying. So I'm probably gonna read those because I'm really curious about the characters in generally, and seeing them. But a lot of like old stuff. It's like I love having like you go through the list and there's like all slew of the goodness. I think your son would absolutely digest this.
Yeah,
Do you know
I think
what I
so.
mean?
I mean, the way that he's reading these days, I think he would polish off a huge chunk.
This is the series of Moon Knight I actually really enjoyed reading. There's one of the recent ones, I think. If it's, I'll tell you. There's too much information. Oh, look, Daredevil.
Yeah, nice.
And look on.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. It just you start going through it, and you're like, oh, I can read this one now. Oh, like those Fantastic Four annuals, like giant sizes. Those like they're pricey stuff. This is like out of reach now for people, like to see. So just have that in your like you scroll and there you go.
Yeah,
you have some very like it's just so much.
That's exactly probably where I would spend the time, right? Like digging into those older books just to try them out.
Yeah,
because I mean, like Avengers, for example, I haven't read a ton of Avengers comics.
Yeah,
I think it would be a great to read those early Avengers stuff. I would love to read Kang's first appearance, like I'm never gonna own the book, but just to get a chance to read it, I think would be great.
Exactly, and you have the first appearance of everyone. You know what the character first came to mind is the Submariner. I don't know why. I want to Fantastic Four. I don't remember which issue he appeared to, but anyway, I want to know because kind of like that, everybody's having a joke of. This fishy guy, kind of talks to fish and stuff like that. And he has those what are the wings on his feet, ankles and stuff. That's hilarious, and I just want to see. But honestly, reading like that, as I said to you, in the Silver Age books, it's fantastic. It's actually really entertaining, especially just having that concentration on one block and expands your point of view and view of that. So yeah, definitely. I'm really, as I say, I listened to him when he was mentioning Damien that week. I was like thinking, surely not. I'm not gonna go for it. But then, just that reading of thing just popped in my mind. It's like, let's check it out. I went in there. It's like, whoa. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is too much. It's like there's so much information, and So as I say, entertaining, and I'm looking forward to more. So I'm probably gonna get into the Defenders you've been reading.
Yeah,
I told you I've been missing some issues, but now I can. So I'm gonna start reading from the beginning, and I'm gonna probably gonna try to catch up as well because I want to because I like the Black Knight, I like the Hulk, then Doctor Strange appears in there, and you have all those characters. Definitely something I want to get into. I will always want to do.
Just make sure you start with the Marvel feature stuff.
Yeah.
Start with those. Cami, I just wrote that TerraVision in there. That's the name of the company that did the basket case. They do LP releases as well too. I don't know if you're curious to check them out, but yeah, if you read them, let me know because I'm still, again, it's another one that I'm slowly working my way, but it looks like I'm kind of on issue 15 is what I have standing by here for Defenders. So I'm still giving her occasionally, so let me know how far you get because I'll kind of dig into them.
And there's a choice of Fantastic Four. Well, you want to start from the beginning, go for it.
I love it.
Like you say, it's like, this comic book. give me a load. Come on, because I'm talking to you online. Internet is not so quick when you. But
Yeah.
this guy's appearance in actual, I haven't read it yet because I read only Doctor Doom's from like Brubaker, which I really liked. It's one of the things I really enjoy reading. But this I'm looking forward to. I really wanted to. But the book is, don't even talk about it. I mean, I can get, of course, reprints and omnibuses on all that stuff. But now it's just like, just having that in your hands like that is like, whew.
Yeah.
And
well, and I think I've talked about it in the past, this collector's item classic series that I was finding for pretty cheap, which was, you know, the reprints of some of those classic stories, but they were still printed in the 60s. There's something about reading those first stories. Like it's still amazing to kind of see where they started, you know, and just get a sense of it.
And then.
So you said you get a week for free. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just frozen.
Oh, there you go. Number 1. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Sweet.
It's just like this kind of, I mean, I have this. I bought a reprint, but it's just having this I haven't read yet because I don't have an issue. Nor did I have found a reprint yet. When it loads the page, it takes time. But Daredevil number 2 issue where the Electro's first appearances.
Yes.
So I don't have that one. This one.
Yeah.
So I want
and
that.
Then you also get the Amazing Spider-Man stuff where Daredevil, the early Amazing Spider-Man work, because
exactly
you're in the yellow suit in Spider-Man comics as well too.
Yeah, and then he changed the costume. That is expensive. I don't have that issue, and stuff like that. You know, like those kind of like key issues. It's perfect for this kind of stuff, especially as I say, history part. So really cool. I mean, as I say, I'm not trying to, you know, like go digital for sure not. But if you have a chance.
But the thing is, like, you know, like I've talked about in the past, just being able to access some of the stuff. The app the thing that I have on my laptop is called C Display X, EX. And again, like when I first kind of dug into it, I was finding a ton of underground comics, you know, so it was these underground comics that just I was not seeing out there and stuff that just isn't readily available. At least I was getting a chance to read them and dig into more of that history to see what the early stuff looked like. You know, I think I also was reading a bunch of early Wonder Woman through that as well too, when I had it on that Kobo Vox or whatever the hell that thing was called, right? So I mean, there's benefit to it. It's just gives you an opportunity. And then because you know, I was reading those and kind of you know, stealing those online to some degree, I then went and bought the underground comics, you know what I mean? So I still spent money and got the physical things, but it gives you an opportunity to engage with that stuff and at least get a little more focus on what issues you want to pick up specifically, right?
Like this one, for example, I missed out on Omnibus. I missed out on first like issues now because they, you know, like getting popularity. And I wanted to read so much. I was looking for the reprints and that stuff. It hasn't been reprinted that many of them, but I really wanted Gene Colan is an art in there for lots of issues. I have, lucky me, I bought by chance a first appearance of Blade, which is, it was just by chance. It was very lucky of me to get hold of that issue anyway. But looking at the art is just so good, and those stories is those bizarre Marvel type of stuff I'm interested as well, because it's not something like, you know, like you have all your teams, you can get a superhero, like, but you want something other things, you know, like your DCs, you go for your mystery, those horror comic books. That's what you want to read, because that's where you discover those Redondos who nobody's talking about it because they've forgotten about them already. So that kind of stuff I want to get into more and just discover. And information, as I say, the information amount when Kree meets those the Kotinti tribe in that and then they travel to the moon, they get placed in the moon, they start building stuff, and suddenly the Watchers is in charge of that after that. You're like, whoa, too much. But then it actually clicks into you, because if you've been reading a while or you watch the movies a while, it makes kind of like sense how much information they can actually work with. And that's a lot. And then like that Kevin Feige that's why he's probably, if he's a fan, like he says he is a fan of comic books, Jesus, that's a lot of information you can play around and just like chess, you know, if you play your cards right and stuff like that. So
well, and then know how to tap into that too, right? Like that's the thing, you know, tap into it the same way that they did in the comics. Refer to some of these older stories, bring some of that in, opens up your options for later TV shows and movies, right?
Exactly.
So,
And then those graphic novels they reprint those stories and those formatters, they are there as well. So
Cool.
I can go couple of them. I don't have them. Like I'm probably gonna look at that Shambhala. You know, Shambhala you got from the Doctor Strange. Shambhala.
Yeah,
I
James.
don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go and look it because I think they have it in there as well. Because I'm just curious to read it properly, actually read it. So just to see what it is. Because when you showed it up, Doctor Strange and all that stuff, I liked when he's doing that kind
beautiful
of like
art. It's such beautiful art.
So
there's another. I'm blanking on who wrote it. There's another Doctor Strange that I've always wanted to check out. I'm not sure. It wasn't Brubaker. I wonder if it was Saga. Who's the Saga writer again?
Oh, Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah, I think it might have been a Brian K. Vaughan Doctor Strange one as well too. That's supposed to be really good, but I've never read that either. So, but I can't remember the title of that particular Doctor Strange. I think it was a mini-series or one-off. I don't know.
Let me try to show it to you, because
can you search? So can you search by creator as well too on that?
You search for the character mainly, as far as I discovered. I really haven't not discovered in much. But when you go, for example, Doctor Strange, there's 686 comic books available to read. Okay. And they, of course, they start from your first appearance, which I have not read, so I'm going to read. I mean, I read it. And I have reprints, but I just wanted to read it probably again. But there's it goes into all of his appearances in here.
Amazing. So, all the Strange Tales stuff.
Yeah, and Spider-Man, some issue, Shield. Then you have his main oh, sorry, I need to display it properly. Then you have his main, then Avengers is appeared in. So all those things you missed, like Hulks, it's all there.
Love it.
Just because of his Doctor Strange. Let's see if he has the new stuff.
I just remember what it's called. I think it's called The Oath, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. Oh, there. Yeah. Oh, wait, no. It looks like it, actually. There's they reprinted. Let me see. Go on. Show me. There's so many, so okay. Oh, the Triumph and Torment, the story is so good. That format as well. That came out. It's a really good story. Oh, okay. That's a lot of Doctor Strange, man. Oh, 1990. I've only reached 90. Oh, there you go. 2001.
It's cool to see those Strange Tales there too, because I think that would be a fun one to dive into. Because again, even like Nick Fury, I haven't read a bunch of any. Well, not even a bunch. I haven't read any Nick Fury. So I think,
it is here. Yeah,
cool.
That's the one.
That is the one.
Yeah, that.
Maybe I do have it in the boxes because that cover just looks so familiar.
Yep. So Vaughan Martin is or not? No, yeah, actually quite. The art is okay.
Oh yeah.
But as I say, it's this is good scene. Good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, what's going on? Doctor Strange.
Wow.
My master, he's been shot. Oh, there you go. And then you have somebody had a night nurse coming through. Da, da, da. Another thing. Oh wow! Just remember, night nurse. Not her first appearance. It's impossible to find for cheapish.
Yeah.
So I want to read that because I'm curious. Because after watching all that, TV shows and stuff like that, you get to know the characters. I actually wanted before, and it's like, oh my god. And then all the Illuminati stories, which is quite popular. Doctor Strange appeared in here. So like everything, man, whatever you can think of, he's there. I mean, it's so much information. To be honest, it's very dangerous. To be honest, like they say.
Yeah. Well, I think like I was telling you before, a friend of mine in town here, they had a big life change. They had a baby, new house, etc. He sold pretty much all of his comics and got a Marvel Unlimited. And he's like, I honestly, I do miss having the singles. He didn't have a choice. They had to pare down. They had to get some money, etc. As life happens, sometimes you just got to make those choices. But he said that the Unlimited app, he said, I love it. It makes it easier to deal with because I still have access to all of those books and more. And like you're saying, books that I would never have in my collection. So it made that transition of a difficult time a lot easier for him because of having that. He still kind of has his books loose, loose quotes, right? Like he can still enjoy them and not have the space taken up, etc. So because he had a huge collection, that guy.
Like Drax. There's a slew of information of him if you want to
So
find out about
funny.
character. That's the
Yeah.
thing, you want to know about the character, like Ego, like from the
Yeah.
Living Planet, I presume. That's there you go. There's a
See, it's
couple of
funny.
it.
So I guess DaCosta's still here. Clark Kent Jeans is still here. I thought that was there an Alan Moore story about a living planet, and wasn't that in a DC book? Wasn't that planet called Ego the Living Planet, or am I just 100% confused? Because I know that there was an Alan Moore short story in, I don't know if it was in an Action Comics or where it was, and it was about a living planet that's apparently a pretty infamous story. And I thought that's what it was called. Maybe I'm wrong about that, because when we watched this Guardians of the Galaxy 2 again yesterday and coming up, it's like, well, that's clearly a Marvel thing. So maybe I'm totally wrong and out to lunch on it. Or it's something that both companies have used. But I always thought it was a DC thing.
Well, the DC has the living planet, but it's a Green Lantern universe, which is called Mogo.
Okay. Yeah,
maybe,
that makes sense, because I think it was a Green Lantern story, wasn't it, that I'm thinking of, that Alan Moore thing.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just saying there's no one, but I'm not sure if he has even. Well, okay, that's it. Defining. No, but that's not it. I'm looking at to see any informations if he had written anything, but so far I know that the Green Lantern has that. But there's, I don't know if you into DC, but animated, I like animated, and I was mentioning there's a Green Lantern animated series. That's what it's called. It only has one season. It's the most beautiful Green Lantern story animated series there is, and they haven't done season 2. I was like, why? Everybody who's actually watched that cartoon is like, why wouldn't you continue? It's really good storyline. Actually, doesn't it doesn't feel annoying. Characters are really like curious and interesting, but it's animated, but so good. And I think DC's animated series is still like way higher than anybody else I've seen. Like
all the DC animated stuff is fantastic. The movies that they were doing, I mean, we were buying every one of them for a while there. I haven't bought one for many years now, but their animated stuff was always pretty top notch. Other than there was an Avengers, there was a newer Avengers series.
The Rising Stars?
That was great. No, anyway, I don't know. You know the way it is. We do a video, can't remember the damn name. We've got it. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I think is maybe what it was called. Fantastic series. Kang makes an appearance in there as well, and eventually, and they do like the Kree Skrull and everything like that. Really, really incredible animated series. But yeah, the Green Lantern, I've only ever seen the animated movie that they did. I've never seen the series. I'll have to check it out.
So this is the one you're talking about, eh? The Kang.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Issue
and
number 8.
I think his first appearance in Fantastic Four as Rama Tut or something like that. I think.
Oh, really?
I think there was an appearance there. Yeah, I don't know if I get confused. This kind of stuff isn't my forte, so I always get confused if it was the Avengers where it was the very first appearance, or if there was something earlier in Fantastic Four.
In on the cover it says, "This is the Kang, destined to rank as one of the most unique villains of the whole time."
Yeah.
And wait till you learn his surprising identity. Oh!
Yeah.
There you go. So it's really cool.
It's one that I wish I would have picked up many years ago when I've started buying all this Kang stuff. I really wish I would have just saved up and grabbed that one, because it's kind of out of reach now.
Yeah. A lot of I remember the time when we were like, I just started collecting comic books, and I was saying like some comic books were like, oh my god, it's out of reach, and I bought some comic books they weren't even talking about, and now some of them, like, which I sold, of course, because I wanted some price. I sold some of them and they just skyrocketed in the price, and it's like, what? How is that possible? But the time goes like quick. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the 2 books that I sold online on eBay, like, it was a gamble. I didn't know if they were going to go, but I saw a little bit of a jump, and like one of them I made $160 off of, another one I made $140 off of, like stuff that I just thought I'd give a shot to. And it's like, you just never know. Right. And then I also found there's another Doctor Strange 169 here in town for cheaper than the one we were talking about before. So I'm trying to, I haven't looked into my PayPal account yet lately, because you can hook up your PayPal to your bank account, because this guy said he'd rather take a deposit if it was like cash or an e-transfer as opposed to a PayPal deposit. So I still have to link all that up. That stuff is kind of out of my realm. I'm going to have to figure it out probably tomorrow, but I may just
Yeah.
kind of put a deposit down on it. So to get myself a copy.
Yeah. If you do have PayPal an app on your phone, it's easy to
I
do
do,
it through
yeah.
there. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
good. Yeah.
it's actually quite well. It's kind of weird because they tell you a couple of things like withdraw or something. Is go to withdraw and you press there and then it's select an account where you want to go, and then usually
Okay.
it's where you. It's if your account is the same for PayPal, whatever you use every single day. That's when it's easy. It just takes like 5
Okay, good.
seconds, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Do
quite
they
easy
take
to
any
transfer.
sort of fee when you do that transfer? Do they,
No.
we're going to take $1 to process this, some sort of bullshit
Well,
like that? Or
I'm not sure how it's in Canada, but in UK you don't.
okay, that's good, yeah.
It just because you already pay the fees when you got them, the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They take your fees from there, but when you transfer to your own account, no, it should be for free. As far as
Okay.
in UK time is. But anyway, yeah, I as I say, it's like a lot of things in this app is so many informations, and those jumps in the reading like Doctor Strange. Remember I told you that I was reading and they said to you go there and I couldn't find that issue, and because it was kind in price, that's where I'm excited because I can just go back now and start reading like throughout. So I have a copy, I can just have a break, like digital. Nah, I have actual issue, go read the actual issue, and then I don't have it, I go in, like that. This is exciting, to be honest, because I really want to kind of like finish the story, kind of like proper finish it, and I know exactly what's happening. It's like that's what I've been missing for a while now. So
fill in those gaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a little bit help.
Just before I have to go, a couple of
go on.
couple of the things. I'm still working my way through it again. It's reading some of this stuff pretty slowly. Reading the first couple of issues of this Whisper, this female ninja. So the first 2 issues were Capital Comics.
Yeah.
And then it went away for a couple of years, I think, and then it finally came back to First Comics, and they did a 60-page double issue to kind of finish the story that was continued, that was started in these ones. Before then, they started they kind of started new stories. It's not horrible, it's like these kind of, it's this era. I mean, you're seeing there's the first Shatter series, from First Comics for advertisements, giving you a kind of a timeline. There were some parts of this where honestly, some of and I'm not going to find the best example here. It might have been in those first 2 issues more. There was a couple of panels, especially with the faces and with kind of the simplicity of some of it, that reminded me a little bit of Mystery, you know what I mean? Where the art style kind of reminded me of that sort of style. So this one is a pretty convoluted tale of this woman and her kind of stepfather and this kind of organization of ninjas. And she's a ninja, and then this other organization, and it gets a little kind of heady and all over the place, back and forth. But at the end of the day, there's some pretty kick-ass fight scenes. And the story is decent. Like, it kept me interested enough. But I mean, if you sat here and asked me 100 questions about it, I don't think I could answer very many of them. So it was that kind of story, but I did enjoy reading it. And the art, and it was intriguing enough that I want to continue with it. And I've found these for pretty cheap throughout the years because I've slowly been collecting them here and there, but now I'm at a point where I've got a pretty nice run.
Yeah.
And what year was this one? It's Stephen Grant is the writer. So it's Stephen Grant and Rich Larson, and then Wendy Fiore is the colorist, and Rich Brunning and Mike Gold are editors, and it is from 1985. So November 1985 is where this one starts, and then there's the creators there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, might not focus, but anyway, so it's a good book. I kind of, because I was reading that Evangeline as well at the same time, and I think this one is edging out Evangeline as something that I'm enjoying a little bit more than the Evangeline books, even though those Evangeline had their moments. I kind of dig this one, and I mean, covers like this they're pretty great, man. It's just it's the 80s, so it's fun to kind of dig into these.
I wanted to ask you, did you read that Phantom Stranger? I mean, you read issue 1?
I just read the first issue. I haven't read any further yet. Another one, I'm just kind of, my reading is slowing down a little bit because things are getting busier at work.
Of course.
So I haven't read as much.
Yeah.
But I really liked this issue, man. The only
Yeah.
thing that I didn't like, and I think you touched on it as well too, is kind of when you get into here's Eclipso, and I know that kind of around this time there was an Eclipso kind of crossover, because at one time I had an Eclipso comic that had like the purple gem on the cover, this plastic purple gem that was there. So I know that it kind of ends up dominating, but man, I really loved the art. And again, because I owned these when I was a kid, it really brought me back. And now seeing it in a different light, knowing kind of who these artists are and knowing more about these creators and their path, it's cool. And there's a couple of moments where you can really see, I mean, to me, those characters are very Mignola. You know what I mean? Something about that character that's very Mignola. And then early on here, to me, that's a very P. Craig Russell kind of face, right? Like it's a nice mix of both of their styles, I found. And it's one of these things where I read this and I look at this art and it makes sense why my tastes went in a certain way, seeing some of these things. There's a reason why I started reading the books that I read, I think, and it's getting exposed to stuff like this early on. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I love stories with kind of like these weird cults, and there's this demon, and there's this mysterious stranger that's got to fight this demon, and I love all that kind of shit, which is exactly why I love, Spectre and Deadman and Doctor Strange, and that's the kind of stuff I like. And it also makes me want to dive more into kind of the magical world of DC with these kind of characters, the Justice League Dark and that sort of thing, right? I want to read more of it. I love it, I'm mildly hesitant to keep on. I'm gonna finish it, obviously, but I do know, because you were talking about that final issue, but I still want to dive in anyway and just see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, as soon as Eclipso, and it's not a mystery that Eclipso was showing up, but as soon as he showed up, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. And just kind of the stuff he was talking about. So we'll see where it goes. It was nice to see Jim Gordon in there as well too. Kind of coming and saving the day. But yeah, it's good, man. It's really, really good. I like it.
Bruce Gordon, is that his son? The crazy guy?
Yeah, it's funny that you ask, because I was going to ask you the same thing. I think I did a look online to see where the character went to, and I don't remember actually if I came up with any results or if I lost interest in looking. I don't really know, but I was going to ask you the same thing. Who the heck is he?
Because that's what I think his name is. But
yeah,
wait, give me a second. I'm just gonna Bruce Gordon. Okay.
And again, it's nice that it's a 4-issue mini. That I can just get into it and it'll be done. I don't have to, obviously I will sign up and get some more Phantom Stranger stuff and look into it a little bit more, but it's nice to have one kind of nice contained story, and the covers are so great. I think this one I love this one. The Eclipso in the background grinning away. It just seems such a classic cover,
Doesn't look
really
like
nice.
it. When they mention, look, I'll show it to you. DC's, like information some of the websites have.
That's right.
There. Yeah, they mentioned
he was the host body of Eclipso. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And it says male scientist, blah blah blah, single, no identity, nothing else about saying about that he would be. But that's the thing, it's so weird. And like you have the same name and you don't connect them, kind of like in the continuity, you would be like, oh, that would be actually quite fascinating if it would be his son, and he had to have to deal with that kind of situation as well. But anyway, it's just the fun. Yeah, I honestly, what I really enjoyed is kind of because of the art from Nola and how different it was because of P. Craig Russell's, and then the continuation throughout the issues, how it was like where it was, but it felt like it's more McDonald after a while. You like less of P. Craig Russell. It's like I give you like I'll help you a little bit, and then you go on with that story. But paneling wise, I think it's really good for that era. And like I say, it's overall as in 4-issue minis, entertaining, and that magical aspect that you're talking about in DC universe is definitely what appealed for me, because of I like Doctor Strange from Marvel, so kind of appeals to me. That kind of part of Phantom Strangers, but part of it.
Well,
So-
and the same thing that you were saying about the Marvel app and stuff, in that first issue, they refer back to a Dr. Fate miniseries from,
Yeah.
I think, earlier that same year. So I looked that up and I
Yeah.
made a note of, I want to find those now. Let's give that a read. Because again, that's just a
Exactly.
miniseries as well. Let's check out some of that. And, you know,
Yeah.
so it's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And maybe the Demon too, I think, is another character I don't know much about. And I know that there was some Demon miniseries around this time too, I imagine. So
wow.
that might be
Okay.
cool to read. I think I've got one old Demon issue, just one
Okay.
single issue. I've never really read much. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what I like about it. As I say, and they give you so much more information. You're gonna continue, and it's just goes and goes. It never
Yeah,
stops.
totally. Never
Anyway.
ends. Yeah.
Yeah. So, people, thank you very much for sticking around. Reader 1717, yes. Mr.
Yeah, holy smokes.
Roger 69501, thank you. Clark Ken Jeans, thank you very much for turning up. That's crazy. And Jackie from earlier, I can't even see anymore.
Yeah.
The names
Mind the
Werewolf by
Comics.
Lunchtime. Yeah, Mind the
Yep,
Comics. Thank you very much for turning up. Yeah, and thank you for spontaneous chat, Mr. Comickkrakk.
Yep. I'm glad that it worked out. That's good.
Yeah. So thank you very much for
Cool.
watching. We say goodbye to you guys. Bye and see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Talk to you later.